Broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Adam Bingen, Derek Mason here with you. Willie Jonick will join us later in the show. A riveting edition of Celebrity Birthdays. Apparently, Nick Frazier just set the all-time record in points in a competition of celebrity birthdays with 11.
Thank you. Yes.
It was very exciting.
I feel proud of myself. I don't think I've ever accomplished something more just impactful in sports radio.
So you're not, it's like, now that you've got the record, Nick, where are you going? Are you supposed to say, I'm going to Disney World?
That's where I'm going, Disney World.
There you go.
You can't go to Disney World or Disneyland anymore without paying an arm and a leg.
Yeah, you got a point there.
So maybe you don't want to go to Disney World.
Dollywood.
I'm going to Dollywood next week.
Or Hershey Park.
Hershey Park is also cool.
In Pennsylvania. I've been there. It's great. Legoland in California.
Never been there.
Well, I don't know if I guess Adam can go with his little one. He'll enjoy it.
We're taking the little one to Dollywood next week.
Okay.
Is he the one driving instead of you?
I wish.
Get in the car, Dad. He said, get in the car, Dad.
He wish.
All I'm saying is there will be a stop at Buc-ee's on the way.
Oh,
yes,
Buc-ee's,
there will be, baby.
Famous Buc-ee's.
There will be a stop at Buc-ee's on the way.
I've never been to Buc-ee's ever.
What?
Yes, I've never been to Buc-ee's. Never. I've seen a Buc-ee's on my way, like going south. I've seen a Buc-ee's, but I've never pulled over. I've never had the urge to, because I guess I always had gas when I passed the Buc-ee's.
It's not about the gas,
I
Derek.
know, and I know it's not about the gas.
It's
now.
about the convenience store.
Yes, but I'm sure everything, like Buc-ee's seems like it's a meat place. Like it has a bunch of ribs and
they got brisket,
hamburger.
It's actually, I was shocked by how good the barbecue was at Buc-ee's.
See, I'm not a meat eater, so me going into Buc-ee's.
But there's plenty of non-meat options.
Yeah. I mean,
the Buc-ee nuggets are pretty good.
What is are they real nuggets?
They're not like chicken nuggets. No, they're like the little, like kind of like pork rinds. But also, it's like a chip. I don't know how to explain it. It's like a little ball. It's like a cheese, like a cheese ball. It's kind of what, except they have different flavors, like cinnamon, barbecue, all that good stuff. White cheddar.
So I could still make a trip to Buc-ee's when I'm headed out of town.
DMase, you free this weekend? I'll pick you up.
Nah, not
closest
really.
one is
too much football going on.
Closest one is Crossville, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so. I thought there was one in Murfreesboro as well.
Oh, maybe there is.
Might be.
Either way,
that's the new one, right? In Murfreesboro.
I think so. Yeah.
So
either way, let me tell you the story about Buc-ee's.
Okay.
So the first time I stopped at Buc-ee's, I parked the car. My wife got out because our son was sleeping in the back seat. I didn't want to wake him up, so I parked the car. I told my wife Bridget, just go in. If you need to use the restroom or whatnot. She said, I'll be back in a few minutes. I think 10 or 15 minutes elapsed. And I saw her in the rear view mirror carrying a plastic bag. And she gets in the car and says, I blacked out. I bought all this stuff. She bought a brisket sandwich. She brought some jerky. She bought some other snacks. And let me tell you, it's good stuff. So if you're on the way out there, Buc-ee's is worth it, but I will be heading in that direction a week from today, actually, on a little family outing to Buc-ee's. But we're not here to talk about Buc-ee's. We're here to talk about football.
Hey, a lot of people out there love Buc-ee's.
I mean, Buc-ee's, I was skeptical of Buc-ee's at first. I'm like, what's the big deal? Then I went inside, and it's like if Costco and Cracker Barrel had a kid in many ways.
You're right. Brisket on the board.
So Buc-ee's will be the kid. I guess Buc-ee's is like Target. You go in wanting to get one or two things, and you end up coming out with like
a shopping
10 or 15 things. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, exactly. And as Skylar points out on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, Buc-ee's is cool, but good luck getting out of the parking lot with all the traffic. I did make the mistake once of stopping at the one. It's either Sevierville or Pigeon Forge. I know they're one in the same, but we actually were unable to get into the Buc-ee's because the parking lot was so crowded. We went around the parking lot a couple of times and then just gave up. So
damn,
it was
Buc-ee's
that
like
it was that busy.
Whew.
Either way, Buc-ee's aside,
yes,
we did have football last night.
Yes, we did.
The Kansas City Chiefs defeated the Baltimore Ravens 27-20. It was a riveting game, especially at the end. First and foremost, I turned on the game. It was delayed a little bit because of weather in the Kansas City area. I caught my first glimpse of Derrick Henry in a Ravens uniform, and it was wrong and yet so right. Seeing Derrick Henry in another team's uniform was jarring. But if it was going to be another team's uniform, it feels like the Ravens. It just fit. I'm sure many people listening had the same feeling seeing you in a Ravens uniform for the first time. But that purple and black, it suited you. And I felt like it suited Derrick Henry as well.
Yeah, I think he embodies what that organization is built on and preaches. Derrick Henry embodies that hard work, toughness, physicality, intelligence. That organization, that's why they are where they are as an organization, because they identify individuals, whether you are a rookie coming in into the draft or you're a veteran guy. They have done a great job at identifying guys that fit the culture that they have in that building, the foundation which that organization was laid upon. They go out and get guys that embody that. And there hasn't been a guy that embodied that more, I think, this year than Derrick Henry. He embodies what the Baltimore Ravens, what they preach. And it was good. It was, like you said, Adam, if he was going to go anywhere else, and I know some, Titan fans just hate the thought of, because each player that have left here and went on to Baltimore has had success. Whether it's myself and Samari, we got a chance to go to multiple AFC championship games with Baltimore. Steve playing good football once he got to Baltimore. Every time Titan fans look around, it's a former Tennessee guy that had done so much for the organization. They end up leaving, not because they want to, but because they're a push out the door, and then they end up going to Baltimore. Why? Because Baltimore identifies, they do a great job at identifying talent, and they do a great job at bringing guys in that embodies what they're preaching. Hard work, don't take a day off, physical, fast, explosive, intelligent players that go out there and do what is asked of them. And Derrick Henry just follows in the line of guys that they brought there from here, in what he's able to do. Now, we didn't get to see, Derrick Henry at his finest.
On the first drive, you did.
Yeah, you did. But I think because the game they're still trying to get used to how to use Derrick Henry. And again, Derrick Henry isn't for the regular season for them. He's not. They can win in the regular season. They know that. Derrick Henry was brought in for the playoffs, when they need to slow the game down, when it's cold outside, the weather, the climate is not ideal. It's not, 80 degrees and no wind blowing and everything else. The conditions are ideal. In January, it's not like that. That's why they brought Derrick Henry in, not for that Kansas City game at the beginning of the year. Whoever think that you don't know football. They brought him in for the game in January versus Kansas City that they believe they will be in either a divisional round or the AFC championship game. That's why they brought Derrick Henry in. So don't look at what he did last night. They're still trying to get used to him. They're still trying to figure out how to use him in this sort of wide open offense. Don't look at what he did now and think, oh, he doesn't have it no more. They don't know. No, they are figuring it out. They want to make sure at the end of the season, when the playoffs roll around, when they got to play Kansas City in the playoffs, because they're going to play Kansas City in the playoffs again, whether it be in the divisional round or the AFC championship game. And more than likely, it will not be in Baltimore. So that's why they got Derrick Henry. Not for yesterday, but they got him for tomorrow.
Derrick Henry had 5 carries, I believe, for 17 yards, and a touchdown on the opening drive for the Baltimore Ravens. To put that in perspective, the Ravens gave their running backs 6 carries in the entire AFC championship game last season. So 5 carries and a touchdown on the opening drive. The rest of the game, Derrick Henry had 8 carries across 9 drives. He was outsnapped by Justice Hill, who was in there for passing situations. As we know, Derrick Henry, is not really a factor in the passing game. Altogether, the Ravens had 32 rushing attempts. Lamar Jackson had half of them. He had 16 rushing attempts for 122 yards. Derrick Henry finishes with 13 carries for 46 yards and that game-opening touchdown. But the end of the game was riveting. And Derek, I would love your opinion on this because as I scrolled social media last night and this morning, of course, there was the play at the end of the game with Isaiah Likely catching the ball. The tip of his shoe was out of bounds. The catch did not count. But it was the play before that with Zay Flowers, because I've seen a lot of people say Lamar Jackson missed a wide open Zay Flowers. And I've also seen people write or say Zay Flowers screwed that up. Based on what you saw, who was more at fault on that play, Lamar Jackson or Zay Flowers on that attempted touchdown?
It definitely wasn't Zay Flowers. Anybody that, if you know football, that was Zay ran his route, which was it seemed like he ran a dig route, a deep go, a post across the safety's face. And the timing was off because Lamar got flushed out of the pocket. So that wasn't Zay's fault. Zay was going with the flow of where Lamar was going. Lamar was going to the right. We're taught as receivers, go with the flow of the quarterback. Allow the quarterback to see you. This guy's cutting across the safety's face at full speed. He sees the quarterback and he's shifting over. As the quarterback's moving, he's moving. The quarterback just threw it behind him. Now, I think what Lamar said was he was looking for Bateman, which Bateman was right there. Bateman ran the same type of route. His was a little bit shorter, but Bateman ran the same type of route, trying to cross the face of his guy that was covering him. Bateman was right there, and Zay Flowers was there. He threw it in between both of them. So I'm not blaming that on Zay Flowers. That was no way, no how. Anybody that's blaming that on Zay Flowers, again, you don't know football. He did exactly what he was supposed to do, found an open spot, moving as the quarterback moves once he saw the quarterback, and he had a spot wide open. He was open. But I think Lamar was looking at Bateman and didn't see, I don't know why he didn't see him, but he didn't see Zay Flowers cross his face, because it's sort of like he threw it in between. It was almost like he saw Bateman and at the last second saw Zay Flowers and threw it between both of them. So that's more on Lamar than anything. It's not on the receiver, either one of them. It's on the quarterback. He has to make up his mind, know exactly who he's throwing to, because he threw it in between two guys that could have potentially got the football.
The play that grabbed my attention on his first career NFL touch, Xavier Worthy had an end-around run, 21 yards for a touchdown. Hit a top speed of 18.45 miles per hour, according to Next Gen Stats. He was a blur on that play. Now, keep in mind, Worthy ran a 4.2140 at the combine, record-setting 40 at the combine. Just, it's not fair that Patrick Mahomes, he had Tyreek Hill for the longest time, one of the fastest players in the NFL. Now he has another speedster in Xavier Worthy. That was an incredible play on his first career NFL touch.
Yeah, kudos to the young man. Listen, we all knew the kid had speed, so he didn't show us anything that we didn't think, he possessed. The speed was there. They used it in a way to get him the ball in his hand very quickly and allow him. He basically was a kick returner. That's all he was, a kick. And this is a guy that did punt returns in college. So essentially, he's a punt returner. He gets the ball, find the open lane. They did a good job at blocking it, and he went untouched. The second touchdown was a complete blown coverage. I don't know what Humphries was looking at. Maybe, it wasn't Humphries. It was the backside corner, because the front side safety was playing cover 2. That front side, the defense that they were playing, it was basically, we're going to We're going to disguise it as cover 3 or man. And then at the last second, we're going to rotate that backside corner and have him play cover 2. Make Patrick Mahomes think it's one coverage when it's another. Well, that backside corner never got to his half of the field, ever. Humphreys thought it was cover 2. I think Humphreys was right because of what the other safety did. The backside corner or the backside safety was the backside corner because Hamilton is the other safety. The backside corner didn't read it right. He didn't take the half of his field that he was supposed to. Everybody else seemed like they were in sort of like a zone defense, except him. So that was a blown coverage by the Baltimore Ravens. Again, we all are prisoners of the moment. And had they played the right defense, that wouldn't have been an issue. He wouldn't have been open. The kid is talented, meaning worthy, but let's not get over, excited about a reverse and a blown coverage, basically. But when you blow a coverage against the greatest quarterback in the NFL, you don't have to pay for it. And the Baltimore Ravens paid for it. That honestly was that the go-ahead touchdown? I think that was the go-ahead touchdown.
Worthy?
Yeah, that last one. Was it the go-ahead touchdown? Because it was the go-ahead touchdown. Because before that, they got the penalty. The roughing the quarterback penalty or something like that.
Mahomes.
Yeah, and extended the drive, if I'm correct. If I'm not correct, please text in and let us know. 615-737-1025. I love our listeners because they do correct us when we're not right. We're looking at a bunch of things. Sometimes this stuff just runs all together. But I believe that was the series where they got the personal foul and then they end up scoring with Worthy on the busted play. But the game was what we thought it was going to be. We knew it was going to come down to which quarterback was going to make the most plays. It was just Lamar Jackson didn't make the play at the end that, frankly, he should have made. Now, he made the throw to Likely, hell of a catch by Likely, but if he was wearing a size 11 instead of a size 12, he would have been in.
Got to tighten up those shoes, kid.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say. The Chiefs win 27-20 against the Baltimore Ravens. We have another game tonight at 7:15 in Brazil. The Green Bay Packers against the Philadelphia Eagles. That game is being exclusively streamed on Peacock. So if you don't have Peacock, quite frankly, you're SOL. But that is another game to look forward to tonight. 615-737-1025. Our phone and text lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Coming up next, we will begin our breakdown of the Titans' Week 1 game at Chicago against the Bears at noon on Sunday. There were conflicting reports about a major Titans player as it relates to his availability for Week 1. We'll get into all of that next. Adam Vingan, Derek Mason, 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
That's an easy bet in my mind. There's no guarantees. We can't guarantee bets here, but I'm taking that all season long. Right now, I believe the Bears are favored by 4 points. But dude, you got Calvin Ridley, and this is why it makes it ball. DeAndre Hopkins is not playing.
Right.
We just found out that he's not playing. I heard he was playing. Now he's not playing.
I'm telling you, I know he's not playing.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to tell you that right now.
Breaking news.
DeAndre Hopkins is not playing in that game. But revamped offensive line, Calvin Ridley, Chigankounkwo, Pollard, Spears. Their offense is more dynamic than it's ever been. The play calling is more dynamic than it's ever been. And the defense is wildly slept on. You got Jamal Adams, who's going to give you a hell of a 3 games, which, by the way, he's also not playing in this game.
Oh, my God.
But he's going to intimidate their ass off.
He's got a good off-the-bus look. He's not playing. I actually forgot to tell you guys.
Definitely going to be a fashion show.
I think the boys are going to show up in a big way. And then all of a sudden, there'll be some clamoring about the Tennessee Titans after week 1.
That was noted NFL insider Taylor Lewan on Bussin' with the Boys, revealing that according to his sources, DeAndre Hopkins will not play against the Chicago Bears on Sunday. Also, Jamal Adams catching strays during that clip.
Man, he's not playing either, they said.
So DeAndre Hopkins has been limited in practice this week with his knee injury. And Paul Koharski on paulkoharski.com published a story yesterday. And according to Paul, DeAndre Hopkins revealed that he has an MCL tear. And it's his left knee, if I'm not mistaken. An MCL tear in his left knee. Hopkins also told Paul that he did not have surgery on his left knee. But as Paul notes in the story, Hopkins suffered a grade 3 MCL tear of his right knee playing for the Arizona Cardinals in 2021, missed the final 6 games, including a playoff game. He said he had surgery on that injury. So according to Paul Koharski, DeAndre Hopkins suffered a grade 3. He had a grade 3. I'm sorry, that was against that is when he was with the Cardinals. DeAndre Hopkins has an MCL tear. I don't know the grade of the MCL tear, but he has an MCL tear in his left knee. Now, when the reports came out, I believe Paul was also the first to report this as well. It was 4 to 6 weeks was the timeline given. I believe the stories were published on August 1st. So that would be 5 weeks ago yesterday. So right in the middle of that 4 to 6 week timeline. So it's possible he may not be available for week 1 against the Chicago Bears. Taylor Lewan says he's out, though it has not been announced. DeAndre Hopkins was asked about this. Nick, do we have any audio from DeAndre Hopkins talking about this? We do not. But DeAndre Hopkins was non-committal about his status for the game on Sunday. He said, and I'm paraphrasing here, I don't read the reports. I play when I'm ready. But it was non-committal about his status. So it's possible we do not see DeAndre Hopkins in week 1. And considering how important DeAndre Hopkins was to Will Levis and Ryan Tannehill last season, we talked about this a few weeks ago, Derek. There were concerns about Levis and Calvin Ridley not being on the same page during training camp. If you do not have the security blanket of DeAndre Hopkins against the Chicago Bears, how do you think that's going to work out for the Titans?
I think they'll still be fine because he hasn't been there. And they have enough pass catchers now. Now, if this was last season, I think they'd be up the creek without a paddle right now in regards to their passing game. But because of what they did in the offseason, for this reason, and this is why I was so vehemently opposed to signing him to a new contract now, right now, as we speak. People are screaming, people even on these airwaves, give him a contract, lock him up, do this. What? And I kept saying, along with Willy, why would you we're not saying don't sign him to a contract eventually, because I would tend to think that, hey, listen, having him on this roster next year will be good for the quarterback regardless. He's not going to be your number 1. And next year, if he's on the team, you don't really want him to be your number 2. You will rather have a younger, faster guy as your number 2. But what he could be is a guy that you can put into your lineup and you know exactly what you're getting. So there was no need to re-sign him to a contract. For all those people that scream, sign him to a contract, sign him to a contract. Better do it now than later because you're going to have to pay him more money. No, they were not going to have to pay him more money, okay? But that's neither here nor there. Let's put that aside for a second. I think the Titans will be okay. One reason, obviously, I already stated, because they went and got more pass catchers. And I think they've gotten used to D-Hop not being around in regards to their offense out on the field. They've gotten used to it a little bit. It's giving other guys more opportunities. It's giving Ridley more opportunities to build his rapport with Will Levis. It's giving Tyler Boyd the same thing. It's giving Traylon Burks that opportunity. Nick Westbrook-Akine. So when one guy is not there, especially a guy that is getting older, if he's not there, that gives other guys opportunities to build that relationship with the quarterback. And luckily, it happened during the preseason. Now, if he would have played 3 or 4 games and then got injured or been gone for 3 to 4 weeks or 4 to 6 weeks, that's a little bit different because now we've gotten used to him being in the offense. I am not telling y'all something that I do not know. So when you hear everything else, disregard that crap, okay? Please do. I'm just telling you what I know because I've been through it. Again, Hop. And here's another thing that I just don't, it's like, why? Why would you tell somebody what's wrong with you? And I'm not faulting Paul for this. Paul's just asking a question and you gave me the answers. But again, if I'm a player and I know I'm dealing with a knee injury, I'm not telling you so I can tell the whole world, hey, listen, I'm dealing with an MCL sprain. You know, when I broke my scapula, this was 2007, after the 4th or 5th game of the season, I dislocated my shoulder, tore my rotator cuff, and broke my scapula. You think I told anybody outside of the team? You think the team told anybody? No, I didn't. Why? Because I didn't want anybody else to know. All you knew was I hurt my shoulder. That's it. Oh, Mason's still playing? Absolutely, he's still playing. They didn't even know half the time I didn't practice because of my shoulder. I don't understand this divulging information when you don't have to. Keep it to yourself. Now, if you do play, what do you think somebody's going to do? They're going to go after your knee each and every chance they get. Not outside the framework of the game, but they're going to go low on you when they got to tackle you. When you're in a pile, they're just going to grind it just a little bit more before they get up. They're going to do everything they possibly can to make sure that they irritate that knee. So why are you telling people you got an MCL tear? I don't understand that. Why do you think coaches are so, like, they're so guarded with everything? That's if the head coach had come out and said that, that's one thing. But a player, I'm not going to tell y'all I tore my MCL. Why? And I don't understand.
Andrew is on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, with a question for Derek. Andrew, go ahead.
Hey, Derek.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, you said one thing that made it really hurt me how we judge these quarterbacks. You said Patrick made the throws and Lamar didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Lamar was carrying them up and down the field doing everything.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right about that.
Lamar was. Patrick, he'll do a little 3-yard dump off that goes for 40 yards and end around for a touchdown, wide open receivers for a touchdown. He gets so much credit for doing so much less than Lamar. And I hate the Ratbirds, and I'm not a Chiefs fan, so I feel somewhat objective.
So you don't like Baltimore and you don't like Kansas City. So you just
Lamar
like, hey.
was a beast last night, and today everybody's saying Lamar can't make the throws, but Patrick can.
Listen, you have a point.
Thanks for your call, Andrew.
Thanks, Andrew. You have a 100% point. Without Lamar playing the way that he did, they wouldn't even had a chance to ultimately win at the end. But Andrew, listen, you're not going to find a bigger Baltimore fan here in Nashville than me because I play for the organization, and and Coach Harbaugh is still there. So I'm going to root for them unless they're playing the Titans. And then I'm just like, hey, whoever wins, they win. I'll be happy either way. But you gotta be honest about this. Lamar, he did fabulous at keeping them in the game. He did all the things that he was supposed to do as a quarterback, except at the end, he had 2 opportunities to make, and I'm not going to even say, I'm not going to further the conversation and say Patrick Mahomes would have made those throws, because I don't know. Has he made those throws in the past? Yes, Patrick has. Has Lamar made those throws in the past? Yes, Lamar has made those throws in the past. But if they're going to win, because they're going to have to go through Kansas City again, and it's going to be more than likely, it may be in Kansas City. I'm not saying it's a 100% because I picked the Chargers to win that division, but they may have to go to Arrowhead to play. He's gonna have to make those throws. I'm not saying he can't. He's going to have to make them, because when you're playing against Patrick Mahomes, like teams were playing against Tom Brady, every throw you don't make, those guys are making them. And that's the difference. If he makes that throw, it's a different ball game, and I understand it. And I'm not going to hold that totally against them, but if they want to beat the Kansas City Chiefs, it's always going to be a tough game. If they want to beat them, they're going to have to make those throws, just like Joe Flacco made those throws in the playoffs when they won the Super Bowl. Lamar's going to have to make those same throws when it comes playoff time in order for them to advance. That's all I'm saying. But you're right, Andrew. He led them. If it wasn't for him, they wouldn't have been in that position. But then again, if it wasn't for him making those throws at the end of the game, those last 2, they would have won the game too. But I'm not going to solely put it on him.
Let's go back to the DeAndre Hopkins conversation and something that you mentioned about DeAndre Hopkins revealed to Paul Kuharsky and therefore the world that he is dealing with an MCL tear. And as you said, perhaps if he does play in that game, the Bears defenders, if they can get a little shot in at that knee, they will. How much? Now, this is the question I have for you. I am certainly not saying that the Bears defensive coaches are saying if DeAndre Hopkins plays, he's playing with an MCL tear. And I want to make sure that anytime you have an opportunity to get a little bit of a free shot at that knee, you should take it.
No, they're saying it. I'm telling you,
they are saying that. The coaches are saying that.
They are saying it. From a legal standpoint, not out of bounds, like take a cheap shot on him.
This is not a Jeff Gillooly situation.
No, but this is not like, what happened in New Orleans with Coach Williams. It's not one of those.
This is not Bounty Gate.
Exactly. It's not one of those deals. It's, hey, listen, go within the framework of the game. If you can make a tackle, don't tackle him up high. Tackle him low. Tackle him at knee level. Why? Because his knee is already hurt. You know what players told me in that 2007 year when we end up playing the Titans in the playoffs? Players told me after that game or later on that season, yeah, we were to go at your shoulder. We knew your shoulder was hurt. They didn't know exactly what was wrong with it, but if you watched the whole season, they knew my shoulder was hurting. So give it an extra pull, give it an extra tug, hit it within the framework of what we're doing, but just irritated it some and throw him off his game, hurt him a little bit because he's already dealing with an injury. I'm not saying they said go outside of the framework of what you're doing or do something illegal. No, within the framework, get an extra shove in the run game on that shoulder. Do what you can. Just irritate it, hurt it a little bit, and see if we can get him out a few plays. Coaches will tell guys to do that. They still do it. That's why coaches are so guarded when it comes to injury. It's like, I don't want to tell you what's wrong with my guy so you could then go at him in that particular area. I'm not doing that.
Well, of course, in the NFL, you at least have to disclose the body part.
Exactly.
In hockey, for example, we know it's lower body, upper body. So it could be anything within that range. Jack is on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com with a question for Derek. Jack, go ahead.
Derek.
Yes.
I'm not a pro. I'm not a vet like you are, so I will ask this question. When I watch Lamar, sometimes I get the feeling that whatever they phoned in for the play to be, after a certain point, his timer goes off and he just starts improvising. So I want you to tell me, is that just me or do you see it? And how do you coach somebody when to throw it overboard and improvise. And I'll listen to the answer. Thanks.
Thanks, Jack.
Thank you, Jack. I'm not saying what you're seeing is wrong, because I think there are moments in the game where, and I did see where he's looking, he doesn't see anybody. So then now he becomes a football player, but still in his mind, he's looking to throw the football. That's what hurt them so much last season when they played the Kansas City Chiefs, is that he was looking to throw the football more to prove to everybody he was a pocket passer, instead of just saying, listen, I'm going to do whatever the hell it is to win a football game. And if I got to run it 100 times, I'm going to run it 100 times. If I got to pass it 100, that's what I'm going to do. He wanted to prove to everybody that he can go arm for arm, yard to yard, touchdown to touchdown with Patrick Mahomes. And I hate to tell him he can't, but it's not just his problem. I don't think nobody in the NFL can go yard to yard, touchdown to touchdown, play to play with Patrick Mahomes. That's how good he is. So what do you have to do? If you have other areas in your game which you can sort of add to, you do it. And I think that's what hurt Lamar last year. It almost helped him this year, because his thing was the offensive line isn't good. Let's just say that again. The offensive line isn't good. And this is what I said to, I think, the group last night, or I think I said it to Willy, or it might have been Chase, because me and Chase was going back and forth too. I said, Derrick Henry went from a horrible line to a bad offensive line.
The offensive line did him no favors last night.
He went from a horrible offensive line to a bad offensive line. So what do you think Lamar Jackson is looking at? He's like, damn, I don't even have time to throw. So he's entering into the same problems that Will Levis and Ryan Tannehill entered into last season. The only difference is he has the ability to run, and his offensive line isn't horrible like the Titans was last year, but they are bad.
615-737-1025. We'll continue the conversation about DeAndre Hopkins and the conflicting reports about his availability. Coming up next, tune into 93.3 FM Totally Hits Nashville this Sunday for coverage of the Quaker State 400. Coverage will begin at 1, and the race is set to start at 2. Coverage also available on the 93.3 FM Totally Hits Nashville and at totallyhitsnashville.com.
There's already reports that you're not going to be available for this game. How do you answer that report? What are your thoughts on that?
I don't watch reports. I just go out to practice, so I guess we'll see Sunday.
How have you felt this week in practice, being back on the field?
Felt good. Felt great.
That was DeAndre Hopkins chatting with Teron Davenport after practice yesterday. The reports that Teron was referring to came from Bussin' with the Boys. Taylor Lewan said on the podcast that DeAndre Hopkins will not play on Sunday. Hopkins, as you could see, there was non-committal about it. We will see. He has been a limited participant in practice this week. The reports of his knee injury surfaced August 1st with a 4 to 6 week timeline. August 1st was 5 weeks ago yesterday. So right in the middle of that time frame. So we will see if DeAndre Hopkins plays on Sunday against the Chicago Bears. But before we continue that conversation, some news to pass along regarding another high-profile wide receiver, Jamar Chase, addressed reporters in Cincinnati today. He said, according to Adam Schefter, paraphrasing, he believes today is the deadline in his mind to get a deal done. He believes the two sides are in reach of a deal. He will likely be limited on Sunday if he plays, and he calls himself a game-time decision and would be willing to play this season without a new deal if it gets to that point. So Jamar Chase could be on the field with a new contract on Sunday for the Cincinnati Bengals when they open the season against the New England Patriots.
Well, I mean, listen, he don't want to lose no more money. I tell you that, because if he don't report, I mean, that's a lot of money you losing per game. And I know that, he's going to get a astronomical contract, but who wants to give away 6 figures? And that's what he would be giving away if he chose not to play. 6 figures. Last I checked, I don't care how much money you got. If I got to give up 6 figures for anything, I'm a little pissed. And if I have control over it, it's not getting taken. I'm going to do what I need to do to make sure I'm keeping that money. So I would be playing. But, hey, it's Lamar Chase's decision, and I know they'll get something done eventually with him.
But I will ask DMase this real quick, because let's say if he doesn't play Sunday, and he just holds out, and he holds out till week 2. Say they lose week 1, just thought out there. He holds out till week 2, and they play the Chiefs. Maybe that has some sort of implication for later down in the season. He could probably get more bang for his buck with his money.
Yeah, he could if he played in that game. But if you're going to play in the second game, you might as well play in the first game. Why not? Well, don't just come back because it's the Kansas City Chiefs.
Well, what I'm saying is, like, he could negotiate a deal that would give him more money if he were to hold out after week 1.
Yeah, because they would want him to play for the Chiefs. But then again, I don't want to lose, upwards to $100,000 depending on what he's making for this season. Maybe, let's just say $100,000. I don't want to give up $100,000 just to prove my point. That's just me.
Not wrong there.
Yeah.
Either way, we'll see what happens with Jamar Chase and see if he actually gets his new contract and is on the field Sunday for the Cincinnati Bengals. We're also wondering if DeAndre Hopkins will be on the field for the Tennessee Titans. As we mentioned in the previous segment, DeAndre Hopkins told Paul Kaharski at paulkaharski.com that he has an MCL tear in his left knee. He suffered a grade 3 MCL tear of his right knee as a member of the Arizona Cardinals missed their final 6 games, including a playoff game. So that's something to keep in mind. We'll see what happens, obviously, on Sunday. But Derek, if DeAndre Hopkins is unavailable, someone else is going to have to step up in that role. And the likeliest candidate is Treylon Burks. We have an unnamed texter, and today, I don't know why I'm feeling this way. We're going Nicktoon characters today.
Let's do it.
Chucky Finster on our text line says, if D-Hop doesn't play, I hope the rookie wideout Jaquan Jackson can step up and get a chance. That kid has a swagger about him that makes me feel like he will step up given the chance. I hope Treylon can too. But my fingers are about tired of being crossed with him. Time to give some other youth a shot. And I think Chucky Finster here speaks for a lot of Titans fans. People are tired of waiting for for Treylon Burks to happen. It hasn't happened through 2 years in the NFL, injury concerns aside, which has been a big part of it. But Treylon Burks has not yet reached his potential in the NFL. And I think a lot of Titans fans are, as the texter said, tired of waiting for Burks to happen. But I would assume that if Hopkins isn't playing, Burks is going to get the first shot at that.
Of course, the organization has pretty much shown everybody that will be the case. Before the season started, people, they're going to end up putting, Tyler Boyd if or Nick Westbrook-Akine if one of these guys can't play. And what did I kept saying? I said, they're asking Traylon to learn all of these positions. Why? Because if any one of these guys go down, he will be the first person that they insert into the space. And it's working out the way I said. If indeed he doesn't play, meaning DeAndre Hopkins, they will put Traylon Burks in there as a starter. They've already shown you. If Calvin Ridley couldn't go and D-Hop could, they would take Traylon Burks and put him at the Z. That's just how it is. I don't understand when I tell people stuff why they're not listening when it comes to football in the receiver position. I don't get it. But the texter is right about Jaquan Jackson. I think what happened last night gave Brian Callahan this bing. It gave him an idea like, oh, we got somebody that can do the exact things Worthy can do. He's not as fast as Worthy, but this kid is as quick as a cat. We can do these reverses with him. We can put him in packages in a pass game where we are zeroing in on him to get the football, or we could put him on the outside and have him run defenses off. And if don't nobody pay attention to him, we're going to hit him down the sideline, i.e. like the Kansas City Chiefs did. So I guarantee you, Brian Callahan was looking at what they did with Worthy last night and saying, we can do that same thing with Jaquan Jackson. Now, will they go out and will it happen? I don't know. But I'm sure there are packages or plays in there now that D-Hop potentially will not play that they want to have for this young man, because he's shown you that when he gets the balls and when he get the ball in his hand, he can make things happen, i.e. a younger Derek Mason. But he's faster and he's quicker. That's what I believe. So I think they will give him an opportunity. They're not going to give him a lot because he's a rookie, even though Brian Callahan has said, hey, listen, this guy's coming in and he doesn't act like a rookie. He's picking up on everything we ask him to do, and he go about his business the way a pro should. But that doesn't mean you're just going to throw him in a frying pan and let him cook. No, you're going to design things for him, and hopefully he can get comfortable as you start designing things. But make no mistake, if D-Hop can't play, Traylon goes into that position. This is the first time since Traylon's been a pro that he has come into the season opener without any ailments. The first time. The first year was the asthma and all that other stuff. The second year was the knee. This year, he's fully healthy and ready to go. So I'm hoping that if D-Hop can't go, Traylon's inserting in that spot, and he shows everybody why they drafted him 2 years ago in the first round.
Ed Bighead on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, says Burks is dynamic with the ball in his hands when he is healthy. If Callahan utilizes Traylon Burks in a more similar role that he had at Arkansas, I think he has a real opportunity to have a big game on Sunday with Ridley playing on the outside and Hopkinson's place.
Yes, that could be a possibility. They have to, at least this is my perspective on it. With Traylon Burks, you got to give him the ball early. Just get the ball in his hands early. Allow him to move with the ball in his hands. And then I guarantee you, he will settle down very quickly. But again, if you let him go out there and he floats around and he doesn't touch the football from a receiver standpoint, you're not in the game. It's harder to stay in the game when you're just running just to be running and you're not getting any targets. It's easier to stay in the game for anybody when they feel they are a part of what's going on. If I don't feel I'm a part of what's going on, I got to work my ass off to stay in the game, as opposed to, hey, I know that I'm going to be a part of what's going on. So you go out there and you play freely. They got to get the ball in his hands. I'm not saying that you sort of get away from Ridley, because you don't. Ridley's your number one guy. So any chance you got to target him, and allow him to make plays, you better do it. But in the meantime, you gotta get Traylon involved if indeed DeAndre Hopkins doesn't play. That first play of the game, at least to me, first play of the game, because Chicago's going to be playing off defense. That first play of the game should be a quick hitch or quick screenplay to Traylon Burks, get the ball in his hands, let him go. And then sort of get into what you're going to get into, because he works better when he touches the ball early. The one time that I saw that was last season after they didn't target him at all. They came back after I fussed on the radio. They came back the next game and he caught, I think it was the first 5 of the first 10 plays, somewhere around there in the first, was to Traylon Burks. That's how you keep a guy involved. If you don't do that, you allow a guy to float. Not to say that he still won't be in the game, but it's different when you feel you're involved and when you feel you're not involved. Not to say he's still not going to go out and do his job. He will. But you just feel different when you feel you're a part of what's going on.
Stu Pickles on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And I'm just saying, if you don't want to be called a Nicktoon character, sign your name on these texts. I mean, I have an encyclopedic knowledge of Nicktoons. I was basically raised on them. You see how I turned out. But Stu Pickles on our text line says, at defense of Traylon, Nico Collins is a great example of a third-year breakout. Traylon could be next.
Yeah, and Nico dealt with some of the things that Traylon dealt with, the injuries. That was Nico's thing. He dealt with injuries. He was inconsistent up and down. And then they got them a new head coach. The offensive scheme changed. They got them a better quarterback. And voila, Nico Collins shows up ready to play. And it also gets him a huge contract the next following year. That can be Traylon Burks. All those things are in play for Traylon Burks. Now he just has to go out and do it.
615-737-1025. Your thoughts on the potential of DeAndre Hopkins being unavailable for week 1, which was always a possibility.
Yes.
So this is not necessarily breaking news, but as we mentioned, Taylor Lewan on the Bussin' with the Boys podcast recently said DeAndre Hopkins will not play in week 1. We'll continue to break down this matchup between the Bears and the Titans at 1:00. We'll have Courtney Cronin, ESPN NFL Nation Bears reporter, to preview week 1 from the Chicago perspective. Tune into 93.3 FM Totally Hits Nashville this Saturday for MTSU football. The Blue Raiders will be on the road and take on Ole Miss. Pregame starts at 1:45 and kickoff is at 3:15. Coverage also available on the 93.3 FM Totally Hits Nashville app and at totallyhitsnashville.com. Willy and DMase, 1025, 1063 The Game, broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Adam Bingen, Derek Mason, Willy Donick is scheduled to join us in this hour. We'll continue our conversation previewing the Titans game in week 1 against the Chicago Bears. Now, before the show, Derek, I was collecting the predictions for the Titans record from the station. And it's an interesting mix. So would you rather me start from the most optimistic projection for record or the least optimistic?
Let's go with the least
pessimistic, I should say.
Let's go with the pessimistic.
Okay.
Pessimistic.
Yes.
Yeah, pessimistic.
Yes.
Excuse me.
Words are hard. I
Yes.
mean, I get it. Words are hard. So the most pessimistic member of the station is Big Joe Dubin, who predicts the Titans will go 5-12 this season. By far the most pessimistic member of the station at 5-12.
Yeah, I think there's a reason why Big Joe just went 5-12. Yeah.
He has said many times that Brian Callahan's decision not to remove Jeffrey Simmons from practice during training camp when he got into the fight.
That changed it.
That changed everything for Big Joe Dubin. I remember he said at one point on the Chase and Big Joe show that if the Titans win more than 5 games, Brian Callahan should be coach of the year.
Yep, he did say that.
It's safe to say that Big Joe Dubin, not a believer in the Tennessee Titans this season. Big Joe Dubin at 5-12. Coming up next, a 3-way tie here at 7-10 between myself, Jared Stillman, and Robbie Stanley. So the three of us have the Titans finishing 7-10. Big Joe Dubin at 5-12. Next is Willy Donick at 8-9. Then yourself at 9-8. And now this was a whopper.
Doozy right
Chase
there.
McCabe. Not only does Chase McCabe have the Titans going 10-7, he has them winning the AFC South. So on the same show, you have someone going 5-12 and someone else going 10-7, winning the division. So the rosiest member of the station is Chase McCabe. The opposite can be said of Big Joe Dubin at 5-12.
So there was no homers running around here. Even Chase is
10-7 and winning the AFC South.
I don't think that's a homer.
That's a homerish take. Absolutely.
We can't say that's not a homer take because he does have things that he's concerned about with the Titans. And he has picked against the Titans before, and he has said the Titans are a bad team. So I don't think it's a homer pick. I just think he's a little bit more optimistic than anyone on the station.
To clarify, today was their question of the day was, what is your hottest take for the Tennessee Titans this season? And that was Chase's hot take for the Titans. So you could take it as a face value. That's his prediction of the season, or that's Chase's hot take prediction of the season.
Ben on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, says that Jared and Ian both picked like 5 wins before. I guess that was before the preseason, though. So, okay. You'll just have to forgive us for 1 second. So Jared made this point yesterday, and who am I to argue with Jared Stillman? I don't want to deal with that. So Jared and Ian have an expectations show where they pick what their expectation for the Titans is based on games they will win, they should win, are toss-ups, they should lose, or they will lose. That's a different show from the prediction show. The prediction show apparently is what counts, not the expectation show. So Jared had 5 wins in the expectation show, but 7 wins in the prediction show. So you have to lock Jared in, according to Jared, into the 7-10, not the 5-12. But the texter is right. Ian, his expectation was 4 wins. I don't know if we have a prediction from Ian. We might have to get that before the end of the show when he comes in. But there are 2 different things. I don't know why they're 2 different things. I feel like it's just a loophole for Jared to wiggle his way out of making a prediction. That's all I'm saying.
Hey,
but
you always got to give yourself an out.
Yes, you always have to give yourself an out. So Big Joe Dubin at 5-12, myself, Jared, and Robbie at 7-10. Actually, I don't know what Rexroad was. I think Rexroad was 8. Actually, I forgot Rexroad. Rexroad was at 8-9 too, I believe. So Willy and Rexroad at 8-9, Derek at 9-8, Chase, his hot take, I guess, which will count as his prediction, 10-7, and winning the division. Caleb says on our text lines, 90% of listeners can't comprehend that. LOL. I'm assuming the expectations versus the prediction. I don't get it either, but again, who am I to argue with Jared Stillman? It's a lost cause trying to reason with Jared sometimes. But either way, so the news of the day yesterday was that DeAndre Hopkins, according to Taylor Lewan, who, hey, who am I to disregard what Taylor Lewan has to say? He obviously played for the team. He still has contacts inside the building. Taylor Lewan said on the Bussin' with the Boys podcast that DeAndre Hopkins will not play on Sunday. Now, we played a clip earlier of Teron Davenport talking to DeAndre Hopkins about those reports. And Teron was on the morning show this morning with more on DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah, I think he'll be questionable. You also have to add Paul Kaharski. He got the MCL news that was the injury, a torn MCL. So that kind of made me take a step back, like, oh, okay, maybe he will be out, but we'll see. I mean, watching him run around, he seemed to be okay, right? He went through all the drills in the individual period, but it's one of those things where you never know. Like they may, as Tyke Tober said, and be trying to protect him from himself and keep him from playing, or maybe he'll see, 20, 30% of the snaps as a way just to kind of work into the.
That was Teron Davenport, DeAndre Hopkins. We have another unnamed texter. We're going with Timmy Turner. Timmy Turner on our text line.
I like Timmy Turner.
Driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Says, to your point earlier, Derek, I agree we need Traylon to show up, but how long or how many games do you think we will have to force feed him and try to get him going early and help him out, hoping he will get it together? NWI can line up everywhere, and he has proven to be more consistent.
And listen, you're absolutely right about that in regards to Nick Westbrook-Akine. Wherever you put this kid, he finds a way to make a play. That's all you can ask for him. So I'm not going to sit here and try to, downplay NWI's importance to this offense. But when talking about Traylon Burks, I'm not saying every game you got to get him involved first. I'm just saying this first game of the season, when D-Hop potentially can be out, everybody's going to gear to stop Calvin Ridley. You have to find that second option very quickly, or that third option very quickly, and get those guys comfortable early on. Because if you get those guys comfortable early on, you know what it's going to do with the defense? It's going to shift the defense. Now they got to worry about the other two rather than just one guy in Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley will enjoy that too, because as we continue to go in the game, into the first quarter, into the second quarter, now that I've gotten these guys involved, Tyler Boyd, Traylon Burks, now the defense has to shift over a little bit. Now they can't put all their attention on Calvin Ridley. And you know what happens? Come the second quarter, third quarter, Calvin Ridley will show up. He will prove why you gave him the money, or at least that's my opinion. You don't have to go to him right away, even though I do believe they will try to get him involved very early because he's their big money guy. He's their number one guy. But if you want the defense to have to play it honest, get those other guys involved. More importantly, get Traylon Burks involved. And then you can let the offense sort of materialize into what it's going to be. Calvin Ridley, they're going to find Calvin Ridley no matter what. But if you want this offense to go the way we expect it or hope it goes, you got to make sure you get those other guys involved. If you sit back and have the same sort of tactical view on it like they did last year and just throwing it to one guy, you know what your offense is going to be? Pedestrian. That's what it's going to be. So you got to make sure you get all these other guys involved, and then you can get your big play guy involved, or you get your big play guy involved early, and then you're able to get these other guys as well.
Good word, pedestrian.
Yeah.
I'm learning something from you.
Oh, man.
Doug Funny on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. You guys are not signing your text. I mean, I can go all day.
They want you to do this.
I can go all day with Nicktoons characters, man. Doug Funny on our text line says pros and cons in terms of DeAndre Hopkins potentially being out. The obvious con is that DeAndre was the only player, he says only in quotes, to emphasize, is the only player Will Levis meshed with last year. The pros are greater. See how well our offseason money was spent. See how Callahan schemes to get other players involved. Watch the run game and our backs get involved. All things considered, Titans were are a bad team, and confidence can only grow.
There was two things that made that happen. Two things last year. And again, I said this before the season even started. Where was the familiarity with on that team? Who had the most familiarity with one another? Who did on that team last year? Y'all can't tell me. I can tell you, just to spare you the time of thinking. The OC and the receiver. Those two guys had history together in Houston. So what do you think he was going to do? And I said at the beginning of the season, they're going to defer to DeAndre Hopkins. Why? Because he has a history. The OC has a history, and he trusts him. That may have been that can be a hindrance. It can be a good thing, but it also can be a hindrance. Why? Because the OC is setting things up for the guy he feels comfortable with, not everybody else. And that's how that offense ran. There was times where I would be like, give Chris Moore the ball, because when you throw him the ball, he catches it. Throw it to Nick Westbrook-Ikine. Why? Because when you throw him the ball, he catches it. But it wasn't that way until they had to make it that way. Brian Callahan in his offense, even with Calvin Ridley there, he has to give Will Levis the leeway to throw it to everybody, not just the big money guy, because eventually, if that does happen, it's going to throw your offense off whack. When one guy is getting 90% or 70% of the targets, the other guys cannot get into the flow of the game. I'm just telling you how it is. It hasn't changed. No matter who the players are, no matter how much money they're paying them or how much money they're not paying them. If that indeed happens, these other guys, they don't benefit. No one benefits if you just look at one guy. And that's what they did so much so with D-Hop, is they target him 100. And I said this yesterday, 133 times. The next closest receiver was 46 times. 46 times they targeted the next closest receiver. You're not winning a football game, or you're not winning consistently if that is indeed the case.
What are some of the matchups that you're looking forward to watching in this game on Sunday?
I want to see, let me pull this up because I had it. Okay, here we go. I want to see the Chicago Bear secondary because they have a pretty good secondary. I want to see those guys, in particular, Jalen Johnson, who is their best corner. I want to see if they match him up with Calvin Ridley, because D-Hop not being here, potentially not playing, will they just leave Johnson on one side of the field and let him play, on the left or the right? Or will they, if D-Hop doesn't play, will they take Johnson and they mirror him with Calvin Ridley? That's what I want to see, because if that happens, how does Brian Callahan sort of operate the offense based upon that? Because this secondary and this defense is a pretty good defense and a pretty good secondary. So what do they do with their top corner? Do they follow their top corner with Ridley, or do they just play it honest? I haven't watched enough Chicago Bear football from a defensive standpoint, nor from an offensive standpoint, to tell you what they're going to do in regards to one of their best players on defense. But if indeed they do that, how then does Brian Callahan adjust his offense from a passing standpoint?
How do you think the matchup of Montez Sweat versus the Titans offensive line will go?
If this was Mike Vrabel and his staff would say, you block him by yourself. We don't care. Block him by yourself. Well, sometimes I don't care how good you are, you still need a little help, unless you're Trent Williams, Jonathan Ogden, one of these B-Hop, and I'm talking about Brad Hopkins back in the day. You can leave those type of guys on islands by themselves, but even at times you got to help them. So to me, if you take the approach, J.C. Latham or PT, can handle one of these guys one-on-one, I think you're taking the wrong approach. Until they prove it, I'm going to give them help when I need to give them help. So to me, you always want to keep that left tackle, regardless of how good he could potentially be. This is his first game. This isn't Montez Sweat first game. Okay. He's a pro. He's a pro bowler. He's a damn good player. So you give him the help when you think he needs it.
Montez Sweat led the Bears last season with 6 sacks. As a team, they had 30, which was 31st in the NFL, ahead of only the Carolina Panthers, who had 27. So not a defensive line that got a lot of pressure on the quarterback.
And he came to the Bears when that was a trade in the middle of the season, wasn't it?
I don't recall when it was.
I think that was a trade at the trade deadline that they made with Montez Sweat, because he came from the Washington Commanders over to the Chicago Bears. So I'm thinking now he's entrenched in that defense. He's going to be even a better player than he was last season.
615-737-1025. Our texter, I gotta come up with another Nicktoon here. Man, did I already say Doug Funny?
Yep, you said Doug Funny.
Oh man, Angelica Pickles.
Angelica Pickles.
On our text line says Montez Sweat also led the Commanders in sacks last year. I don't know how many sacks he had with the Commanders. He must have had 6 with the Bears only. I'd have to look that up. Thank you, Angelica, for pointing that out. 615-737-1025. We'll continue to get your reaction. Also, just be prepared. Ask DMase coming up at 12:30. So get your questions in for Derek on our text lines, on our phone lines, but we'll continue with the reaction next to the potential news of DeAndre Hopkins not being available for week 1 against the Bears. Adam Bingen, Derek Mason, 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
DMase. He played 15 years in the NFL.
Quick throw. Touchdown, Derek Mason.
He had over 12,000 receiving yards. And now you can ask him anything. Have a question about football or life? Now's your time to ask DMase.
We'll welcome you in.
Now on Willy and DMase. On 102.5 and 106.3, The Game and the Game Nashville app.
It is that time of the week. It's time for Ask DMase here on Willy and DMase. Adam Bingen, Derek Mason, Willie Donick should join us shortly, but it is Friday. It's around 12:30. Friday. It's time for Ask DMase. So get your questions in 615-737-1025. You can ask Derek anything you want. It could be about football. It could be about life. It could be about that time someone thought he was a dentist.
They still text in, by the way. The people still, mess with me about it.
Yeah, they're looking to get their crowns fixed,
exactly.
Man.
Absolutely.
So, one note to pass along, since we have been talking about DeAndre Hopkins, he is practicing again today, according to our friend Teron Davenport. Teron also mentions that he did not have a sleeve on his left leg, unlike yesterday. DeAndre Hopkins practiced once again. He didn't have a sleeve on his left leg, unlike yesterday. No sign of Jamal Adams during the open portion of practice. So I think we can count Jamal Adams out, which is not a great sign for a guy who came here on a prove-it deal, who has been unable to stay healthy, and he may not be available for week 1 for his new team. Not great in terms of the image rehab for Jamal Adams.
Yeah, and today is a tapered down day. Tremendously, you will see. Well, they won't see because the media guys and gals have to leave right after warm-ups, and individuals. But you got 2-minute. You got a little move the ball situations, and I think it'll probably be a little red zone today. But a lot of today is just tying up some loose ends, getting everything sort of tidied up and whatnot, running some plays that you're going to run in the red zone or 2-minute. So that's what today is about. So I don't expect D-Hop to practice at all, really. May get some 2-minute inning, but today is a real light day anyway, because it's 2 days before the game. So it's not going to be taxing on his body regardless if he's going to play or not. Today is a tapered down day.
One note to pass along, as a couple of our texters mentioned, Montez Sweat had 6.5 sacks for the Commanders before going to the Bears. So he had 12.5 total sacks, 6.5 with the Commanders, 6 with the Bears. And that's 6 with the Bears in a truncated season with the Bears, still led the Bears in sacks.
Exactly.
So something that the Titans offensive line is going to have to contend with on Sunday. But it is time for Ask DMase, and Eric is on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, with a question for Derek. Eric, go ahead.
Yes, I've also got a dad joke. Yeah, so hopefully you like this, guys. I had to make sure I call in today. I don't know how much longer I'll be calling in, guys, because it appears I may have finally found a job. I'm just waiting on them to call me back as far as the background check. They shouldn't turn up anything, so I think I'm going to be starting my job either sometime next week or the following week. So, but here's my dad joke, guys. I had a friend of mine who's an investor. He loved to invest it into the market, the stock market, and the soups and all this sort of stuff, and animals, to make money. So he invested in beef stock and, of course, chicken stock, and it was, like I said, it was invested in soups and the stock market and everything. But he made quite a bit of money. He made a bullion.
I like that.
I'm glad you like it.
I like that
one.
Like
I said, I have no idea when the next time I'll be calling in, guys, but I definitely wanted to leave y'all laughing. So
thank you,
a couple of quick things before I get to my Ask DMase. I don't know if you saw this. Taylor Lewan now is part of the ESPN family, apparently, because he was on Get Up and First Take this morning.
I saw him this morning on there.
Yeah. And I don't know if you heard about this. This is a message that y'all probably be interested in. I don't know if you heard about this,
But First Take, of course, does HBCUs. They're going to be in Nashville on Friday, October the 11th with Stephen A. Smith, Molly Karam, and Shannon Sharp at TSU. Basically, it's first come, first serve. So I didn't know if you knew about that, but I saw that this week. So
go Tigers.
Yeah, which means I'm guessing they're going to be interviewing Eddie George, too, on that day. Mm-hmm. So my ask DMase to you, Derek, is this. I really think the Titans, I don't know if they're going to win, but I like them plus points against the Bears. And the interesting thing, I saw a stat where they're seeing the rookie quarterbacks on their opening day or something like 14, 30, and 1 or whatever it is. And I think they said the last quarterback that won in this rookie start on this opening day was, I think it was Derek Carr, and that's more than 12 years ago. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people are picking the Bears, and they're saying, in fact, a lot of people I've heard think it's going to be a big-time blowout, which I don't buy. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game because I think, like they said, Caleb Williams is probably going to have some growing pains to do. And I think, well, I've heard the Sharps are picking the Titans in this game. Just want to get your thoughts on that, Derek, and what do you think is going to happen? Good talk to you guys. Y'all take care, tighten up, and we'll talk to you again whenever I talk to you again.
Thank you, Eric. Just to clarify the statistic, which we've talked about a lot, the last 15 quarterbacks selected with the top pick are 0-14-1 in their first start. David Carr, Derek's brother, was the last to win in that situation in 2002. One piece of news to pass along. DeAndre Hopkins will be listed as questionable per Brian Callahan. So DeAndre Hopkins officially questionable for week 1 against the Chicago Bears. But Derek, go ahead and answer Eric's question.
I mean, this game to me, it went from 4 points to 3 points, which means, it's really a pick 'em. That's what it is, because you automatically more than likely going to get 1 to 3 points because you're at home. But I think this game is really once Sunday come, I believe it's going to be a pick 'em. Either that is going to be 1 point, 1.5 points. I think that people are starting to really, look at rookie quarterbacks starting their first game, because all this information is coming out about rookie quarterbacks and their first start and the win-loss record over the last 12, 15, 30 years. And it hasn't been good for rookie quarterbacks. I don't care who the rookie quarterback has been. And we have had Hall of Famers that have been rookie quarterbacks that didn't fare well in their first game, i.e. Peyton Manning. So I expect it to go from 3 now to possibly 1.5 points. 1.5 points. I think that's what it'll end up being once right before kickoff. But if you're going to play a rookie quarterback, I don't care how great he's going to potentially be. If you're going to play a rookie quarterback, you best play him his first game of the season. Why? Because he doesn't know you. He hasn't really got a taste of what the NFL is going to be. The NFL is nothing like it is in preseason. And I will repeat, the NFL is nothing like it is in the preseason. Once the preseason is over with, now the real ball starts. Everybody know that. So the stuff that you saw Denard Wilson doing in preseason, that was just scratching the surface of what he plans on doing this opening game. So to me, this is a good opportunity. If I'm going to pick, I don't care who the quarterback is. If I'm going to pick against a quarterback, it will be the first game of the season. A rookie quarterback, I mean. If I'm going to pick against a rookie quarterback, it's going to be the first game of the season. Why? Because he doesn't understand what he's getting into that first game. And when you go against a guy that has come from a background of blitzing, exotic blitzes, different defenses, confusing you, players in positions that you've never saw, when you're facing a guy like that, it's going to be hell on a quarterback, especially a rookie quarterback in his first start.
Wes in Clarksville asks, Derek, do you think Travis Kelce listened to or liked Taylor Swift's music before they started dating? Because most grown men don't like Taylor Swift's music.
As a grown man, if he was listening to Taylor Swift's music, I don't know. That's his prerogative. I mean, I don't. I never have, and I still don't. I'm not saying that she's not a great artist, because obviously she is, but that's just not my cup of tea when it comes to music. So I'm not sure if he was listening to it or not, but I'll tell you one thing, he better damn sure be listening to it now. If she's learning plays, you need to be listening to your music. point blank.
Well, he went to a Taylor Swift concert to shoot his shot, if I'm not mistaken. He had a friendship bracelet, which Taylor Swift fans like to collect and trade, with his phone number on it.
That's almost that is stalkish. That is like that.
How else? I mean, look.
But sometimes you got to do that.
Taylor
I get it. I mean, I don't get it, but hey, it is what it is.
Taylor Swift is as protected as the president of the United States.
You got a point there.
So you have to do what you have to do.
But I'm not being stalkish or like weird.
He didn't follow her around the country. He went to the show in Kansas City.
Yeah, but a bracelet with a phone number on it.
Phone numbers, man. Come on, dude.
I give him points for creativity.
I don't give him no points. I subtract points. I give him points for actually now. Oh, well, hell, I don't even give him points for dating her. He's dating her. That's not for me to give points or subtract points. But when it comes to bracelets and putting your phone number on there, yeah, you're a 30-year-old grown man.
Not in kindergarten.
Yeah, exactly. You're not in kindergarten or teenager.
All I'm going to
or
say,
in your 20s.
All I'm going to say is that Travis Kelce,
but he got her,
is dating, I would argue, one of the most desirable women in the world. A lot of people, a lot of men love Taylor Swift.
I'd argue that.
You could argue that. I said one of. I didn't say the, or did I say the?
I don't think.
I don't even remember what I said 10 seconds ago.
Taylor's not even top 5 in my opinion.
Listen, whether
other people up there.
Yeah, whether she's top 5 or top 105, he got her or she got him, and it is what it is. But the bracelet, yeah, that's a little bit corny-ish, weirdish.
I listen to Taylor Swift because when my wife drives, that's what she listens to. And she's an incredibly talented artist. Now, would I go to the Taylor Swift show? Probably not. But I can appreciate good music when I hear it. And I think she is a very talented artist. Ron on our text line says, Derek, let's say your son did something bad and you punished him to his room. And later that night, he sneaks out of his room and goes to a party where he saves a person's life. And the way you find out is through the news. Would you still punish him? Or would you let it slide because he saved someone's life?
I would still punish him because you left the house when I told you not to leave the house.
But someone's alive because your son broke the rules.
I get that. But just because you broke the rule, just because you saved somebody's life doesn't mean that you're not getting punished for breaking the rules.
They've got like a Medal of Honor or something.
The rules is there. I would be happy that you saved someone's life. Get it. You were there, but you also left the house when I told you not to leave the house. So therefore your punishment will be extended however long I think it should be extended. You know, just because you save somebody's life, which is great, but just because you save somebody's life doesn't mean then you get a pass. No, you left the house when I told you not to leave the house.
Drill Sergeant DMase over here.
You better be lucky I don't whoop your little fanny, you know? Because if he left the house, he's old enough so he can't get a whooping anymore. So he would just be, you know, commandeered to his bedroom, you know?
It's a different time.
Yeah.
It's a different. No more corporal punishment with child raising.
It's not about corporal punishment, but if my son was small, yeah, I would take a belt to his ass.
It'd be impressive if a small child could save someone's life.
Yeah, you got a point there,
that's all
too.
I'm saying.
No, but I'm just saying, like, if you did something, even if you're a small child, and I'm not saying small child as in 5 years old, I'm saying small child, you're like in between that 10, 12 years old, 9, 10, 12 years old. Yeah, I'm still going to put a belt to your backside. I'm one of those parents, and ain't nobody going to tell me different, because it's either me raising you right or them out there. They don't care. They're gonna, if you do something wrong, they ain't gonna sit there and say, "Oh, little Derek, don't worry about it. You'll be fine." No, they're gonna throw your ass in jail. So it's better for me to get you now, so they don't get you later. And I'm not talking about corporal punishment, people. I'm talking about me taking a belt to his backside every now and then. If he does get out of line, that's just me.
I like it. I'm in.
Trey from Antioch wants to know, Derek, why Joe Rexrode is so negative towards Jarrett Stillman.
You got to ask.
How much time do you have? We don't have enough time in this segment to answer this question.
There could be many reasons why Joe and Jarrett, they go at each other.
It's highly entertaining.
Do you know why they go at each other? Because they love each other so much. That's what I have come to the realization, that Joe and Jarrett, they're like long lost brothers, and they're going to go at each other like brothers. They love each other. That's all I can come up with.
All I'm saying is, as much as Jared likes to get on Joe for the things that Joe says or writes, I know that Jared holds Joe in high regard.
Oh, of course he
So
does.
but I do love when they're bickering and Joe just starts screaming into the telephone. It's one of the more entertaining things you can hear. So who knows why? Well, actually, we do know why.
Yeah.
Because look, Jared says some ridiculous things. I know a lot of people like to get on Jared, but most of the time, Jared's pretty spot on with things that he says. He's a bit bombastic about it, which can drive people crazy. Don't get me wrong. I've been the victim of this too. It's much less over the years. When Jared and I first really got to know each other, I was a lot like Joe reacting to Jared. I've softened in my older age. 615-737-1025. An unnamed texter. We'll get to a Nicktoon character next time. Says, I agree. I would extend the punishment, but I would give him some type of reward for what he did.
Yeah, I can understand that. Like once he get off punishment, it's like, okay, that was a great thing. You know, I would take him to see the family before I put him on punishment. I would take him to go see the family and let the family, you know, thank him for whatever. And, you know, I let them do all that stuff. But make no mistake, once we get back home, brother, your punishment is still your punishment.
615-737-1025. Continue to get your questions in for Derek Mason. Join Derek Mason with Jared Stillman and Chris Sanders at Twin Peaks in Cool Springs this Sunday from 9:30 to 11:30 for the pregame show. They'll break down the Titans' Week 1 road matchup against the Chicago Bears and give you the latest updates before the game. The pregame show is presented by Parman Tractor and Equipment and Sun Deck Nashville. This week's Nashville Best Deal is from River Queen Voyages. River Queen Voyages is the most fun and unique way to see the downtown skyline from the water. Head to thegamenashville.com/deals now to get a $50 gift card for only $25 to River Queen Voyages while supplies last. Adam Bingen, Derek Mason, Willie Donick will join us to start the third hour. It is Ask DMase, but Tennessee Ray is on the line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, because he wants to disagree with something that I said. Tennessee Ray, let me hear it.
Bro, I heard you say that Jared is usually correct on everything. Jared is not correct on everything. He just boasts on the things that he's correct on. So I can understand where you're brainwashed. So my question is to ask Derek, is there any way you can discipline Adam for believing that? If you don't have a belt, I'll bring mine to you.
Thank you, Tennessee
Thanks, Ray.
Hold on. Did you say? I don't think you
okay,
said
let me.
he was
I
right
have to
about
go back.
everything.
I don't think he's right about every. I do not believe that Jared.
I think
right.
he was being a little bit sarcastic.
Yes,
when he said that.
Jared is not right about everything. He is more well-reasoned than a lot of his listeners believe, because of how he delivers his opinions, it gives. I feel like that can influence how people think of what Jared thinks, if that makes sense.
Yes, that can, because of how he delivers, the information. It can make, listen, one thing about Jared, you're going to listen to him, whether you hate him or you love him, you're going to listen to him. That's just the way it is. So face the facts. He's good at what he does. He's good at his job. And that's just how, when a person is good at what they do, you're going to watch that person no matter what, because you're always going to try to pick out something he didn't say right and try to go at him. Or if you love him, you love his takes and you love everything else. So, Jared is good at what he do, and he knows that neither you're going to hate him or love him, but you're going to listen to him.
I will tell you one time when I was the angriest I've been at Jared. I can't remember. It had to have been 2 years ago at this point. You know how Jared has his list of guarantees?
Yes.
He guaranteed, I think it was 2 years ago. He guaranteed that Duke would beat Tennessee in the second round of the NCAA men's basketball tournament. As a diehard Duke fan, as soon as I heard those words leave his lips, I texted him and said, "That's the kiss of death, brother." And Duke was not. They were competitive in that game, but Tennessee always kept them at arm's length, and Tennessee won. So Jared was wrong about that. He guaranteed Tennessee would lose. They did not. But as soon as he said that Duke was guaranteed to win, I said, "Man, as soon as you said that, I knew there was no point of even watching the game at that point."
He didn't
because
put the
of
curse on him.
He did put the curse on me. David in Arkansas has a question for Derek. Aside from your rookie season, well, I guess he said you could also use your rookie season. What was your most memorable opening day as a player?
Each one of them. And I'm being
honest. You got to pick
one.
one. You got to pick
Each
one.
opening day
all right.
memorable. But let me say this. It had to have been my rookie year, because I got a chance to play a lot in that game. Derek Russell, who was the slot guy at the time, he ended up being injured for the first game. And I got extensive work as the third receiver, as the H in the 3-receiver set. So that alone was, to me, the most memorable. Not because of the way I played or anything else. It was just the fact that, I got a chance to, be on the field and contribute my rookie season. First game of my rookie year, I got an opportunity to be out there with those veteran guys, Steve McNair, Eddie George, Brad Hopkins, Bruce Matthews, all those guys, Chris Sanders. Got a chance, the guys that I had been watching. Now I'm out here playing with them. Even though we were playing in Memphis, it didn't matter at their stadium. It was just being out there with those guys. So to me, that was the most memorable one.
Let's see what else.
Memorable.
Let's see what else we have here. Also, while I look for the next question, because we do have a lot, it has been officially confirmed by Brian Callahan that Jamal Adams is out on Sunday. So for a player who has been dogged by injury concerns, not a great look that you're not going to be available for your first game with a new team?
Yeah, that's not good.
A lot of people, I'm a bit surprised by this. A lot of
Okay.
people agreed with your take on the question about whether you would discipline your son.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And listen, because there's one texter on here. I think they don't have a name. So if you want to give them a name.
Angelica Pickles.
Okay. Says, I agree. I would extend the punishment, but I wouldn't give him some type of reward for what he had done. I agree with that one. I would let the family that he helped save their child, I would let them give whatever reward they were going to give. So that's good. And then Tommy, is it Tommy?
Tommy Pickles?
Yeah, Tommy. No, they gave a name. So Tommy.
Okay.
He said,
Tommy and Angelica are cousins. just saying.
His actual name is Tommy.
Okay.
He says, "Amen, DMase. That's the problem with society. People don't spank that ass no more and let kids run them." Amen, Tommy. You don't know how many times I go to grocery stores or I'm out and I see these kids disrespecting their parents, telling their parents to shut up, cussing at their parents, all this. And I'm thinking like, my mama would have threw a shoe at me if I cursed at her. I don't care if it was just cursing, period. Cursing around. Like, there's a level of respect that your kids should give to the parent. Now, I get it. There's some situations where, the parents are not doing what they're supposed to be doing as parents. They're protecting, taking care of their kids, and they're treating them as if they don't know. I get that. But for all the great parents out there that are doing it the right way, it's like, I don't understand you letting your kid run you. Sit down, little Derek. Sit down, little Tommy. Do this. No, sit your ass down or you getting it. That's because if you don't, I'm tired of talking. It comes to a point where talking and putting you, on timeout, that stuff don't work for some children. Some children, yeah, it does work. Like my kids, when they were younger, I could just put them in their room and they'd be fine. They'd come out and they'd be fine. But I did have to spank that ass once. I did. And I'm going to tell you this, my daughter, I spanked her one time. Matter of fact, I hit her with the belt one time on her backside. It wasn't even hard. She had cried as if I had beat her with a pole or something. She was just falling out. Marcy come running upstairs. What do you do to that girl? I'm like, I didn't do anything. I barely hit her. Barely. So I knew that it was better just to talk to my daughter than to try to spank her. She understood. My son, on the other hand, I spanked him. His little ass looked at me like, you got more? I said, okay, all right, I know what to do to you. All right, you just stay in the room for now. But yeah, if you got to spank your kids, listen, spank them. Because if you don't, somebody else will. And when I mean spanking, they're going to throw their ass in jail. Or the obvious extreme. You are going to be going to a funeral you don't want to be going to. Point blank. Okay? So spank your kid. If indeed you need to. That's me.
All I'm saying is Tennessee Ray called and wanted you to go cut a switch and smack me with it.
I'm not cutting no switches. I'm not doing that.
That's a little too far.
Yeah, that's that. I'm that. No, I'm not. But I would pick up my belt and do it old school. Just spank them on the backside. They get it. If they don't, then you got to try another method.
We have, let's see, what's
like a wooden spoon.
What is another?
I ain't going there.
Well, it wasn't directly at me. It was off to the side.
Oh my! Speaking of spanking that ass, Sandy Cheeks on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, says, "What advice would you give an aspiring sports journalist who wants to eventually host their own radio show and be successful in the industry?"
Man, what advice would I give to you? Be knowledgeable about the things you're talking about. Know all the sports. I had to find that out very quickly when I first did my radio on this show. But I was lucky enough to have some great individuals. DMac, I think Willy was there. Chase, those guys knew hockey, and I had jumped into the frying pan, and the frying pan was hot. Why? Because the Nashville Predators were going on their run to the Stanley Cup that year. So I jumped into the frying pan while it was hot, and I had to learn on the run. But having people like Darren and Willie and Chase, those guys helped me learn the game of hockey. Even to this day, they continue to help me learn. Yourself, especially Willie, him being a television voice for the Nashville Predators. When we had Chris Mason on, all these guys and girls are able to allow me to learn the game more and more each time I cover it. So my advice would be to know something about all the sports, especially here in Nashville.
If I may interject,
yes,
I think one thing that I would suggest is be able to take a complex thing and describe it as simply as you can.
Exactly.
Because Derek played in the NFL for many, many years. There are things about the X's and O's of football that I'll never be able to understand. But what Derek does a good job of is being able to explain those concepts in a way that a normie like me who loves football but doesn't know the ins and outs of everything that's going on on the field. He explains it in a way that I can understand. It makes me a smarter co-host, smarter listener, smarter football fan. So if you are able to take something complex and describe it in a way that the normal quote unquote fan of the sport that you're covering can understand, I think that's a really important skill, because I think one thing we've seen a lot of is people talking like experts. And there are podcasts, television shows, radio programs that are really good breaking down, talking about concepts like they're actual football coaches. And sometimes they are actual football coaches, but sometimes that can go over someone's head.
Exactly.
So being able to simplify something complex would be my piece of advice. I think that is a really good question. So I think our last question here from Dre. Let's see. Actually, did I lose that question? I dislodged. That's a different Dre. It was about Derrick Henry. I'm going to paraphrase here. The question was about Derrick Henry and whether or not, here it is. With all of the talk about Derrick Henry getting little snaps last night, do you think that could help prolong his career and play a few more extra seasons than he otherwise would by taking less hits and less punishment throughout the season?
I mean, there's some, I guess there could be some truth to that. Adam, now what was the caller's name again? Texter's name again?
Dre.
So there could be some truth to that, because of the workload he had to endure here in Nashville, then going somewhere like Baltimore, where yes, you are their number one option in regards to running a football, but they have other options as well that can run it and run it effectively. More importantly, the quarterback. So again, getting Derrick Henry wasn't for September, October, and November. Getting Derrick Henry was for December and January, and for them, hopefully, into the Super Bowl, because they want to slow the game down. The elements are involved now. It's a little bit colder. That ball is like a brick. They're not throwing it around as much. They want to try to slow the game down. And the one thing that there are two things that travels in this league. Really, one, that's defense. Defense travels well no matter where you go. But a good running game, no matter if it's 100 degrees or -5. If you got a good run game, that's going to carry you a long way. So getting Derrick Henry wasn't for now. And I understand how it looked last night. It was okay. It wasn't great. It wasn't bad. It was okay.
It started off well.
Exactly.
But
then he was out of the picture.
Right.
Because they were down.
Statistically, he was a non-factor the rest of the game after the touchdown drive at the start of the game.
Absolutely. But they didn't get him for the Kansas City game at the first game of the season. And they got him for, hopefully, in the AFC Championship game, or when they have to play Kansas City, possibly in the divisional round. That's why they got Derrick Henry.
615-737-1025. Excellent questions. Even you, Tennessee Ray, who suggested that Derek beat my ass. So, excellent questions today on Ask DMase. Willie will join us in the next segment. Tune into 1025, 1063 The Game this Saturday for Vanderbilt football. The Commodores will take on Alcorn State at home with pregame beginning at 5 and kickoff at 6:30. Coverage is also available on the Game Nashville app and at thegamenashville.com. Willy and DMase, 1025, 1063, The Game. Broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Adam Bingen, Derek Mason, now joined by our friend, Willy Donick. Willy, we're glad to have you.
Hello, boys. Good to be back. Good to be back.
You missed it.
I was
Very
listening to
entertaining.
The tail end of the Ask DMase, I have to say, was pretty good. I did not catch the first part about what was somebody was going to do harm to Adam.
Someone was going to do harm to me, but Derek was asked if his son were to sneak out of the house, but to go to a party, and at that party, he saved someone's life. Derek found out that his son snuck out by watching the news. Would he still punish his child, or would he let him off because he saved someone's life? And Derek's like, I'm still punishing him. And then they got into a whole thing about belts, and someone threatened me through Derek. It was a whole thing. You miss a little, you miss a lot on this show. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
It is quite it's worth listening back to if you missed it. So the news from Titans practice, is that DeAndre Hopkins is officially listed as questionable for the game against the Chicago Bears, as we discussed in the first hour. According to Paul Kaharski, DeAndre Hopkins told him that Hopkins is suffering from an MCL tear, and that is why he has been out, or he missed most of training camp. That news broke August 1st. That was 5 weeks ago yesterday. The timeline was 4 to 6 weeks. So if he's not available on Sunday, it's within that timeline. Taylor Lewan on Bussin' with the Boys said that Hopkins will be out. No one, of course, at the Titans has confirmed that, but we will see. Hopkins has been a limited participant in practice all week with the knee injury. Now, Willie, we were talking about this, Derek and I. If Hopkins is unable to go, that might mean more playing time for Treylon Burks, which might mean that your Donick dynamic plays that you asked us about the other day, 12.5. Now, if I remind me of the definition, it is any play above 20 yards or a touchdown.
More yards, 20 or more yards from scrimmage, right? So we're not going to count if he ends up returning kicks, which is possible. I'm talking about from scrimmage, a 20+ yard play, which most people consider an explosive play, or a touchdown. So, if he gets a long bomb, a 50-yard touchdown, then that would be a double. So the over-under, and this is one of our 10 Titans questions stemming from all the things we've discussed in training camp. If we're just trying to figure out, will Treylon Burks be a factor? And we're saying, look, he may not get a lot of volume. He's not going to start over D-Hop or Calvin Ridley, but can he make some contributions with dynamic plays? Little touchdown catch here, a 20-yard catch or run there, and the over-under is 12.5. So maybe he'll have more opportunities. And this also goes hand in hand with another one we had. Will D-Hop and Calvin Ridley combine for over or under 2,200 receiving yards? A little bit of a tall order, and especially if D-Hop misses the first game, that's one less game to work with.
I said under, so I'm feeling pretty good about it if DeAndre Hopkins
I said under as well.
Derek said over, if I'm not mistaken.
Over. I think I said over. Yeah.
It's,
which means
DMase went over for both. Yeah. So he thinks the wide receivers are going to have a huge year, that they're going to throw for some yards. So keep that in mind, DMase, when we ask today's question.
I know, man. It's not looking good, but oh well. You got Treylon Burks that keep your fingers crossed, people.
I saw something interesting in reading a preview of the game on Sunday. We've, of course, talked a lot about the records of number 1 overall pick quarterbacks in their first starts. The past 15 quarterbacks have gone 0-14-1 in their first start. It has been 22 years since a number 1 pick quarterbacks won his first NFL start. That was David Carr in 2002. But this, according to ESPN, caught my eye, and I'd be curious for Derek and Willie's opinion on this. Caleb Williams is the only rookie in NFL history to start his team's season opener with 2 receivers who had 90+ receptions the previous season. He has Keenan Allen with 108 and DJ Moore with 96. So when we talk about Caleb Williams, his first game, the recent track record of number 1 overall pick quarterbacks losing their first career starts, how much does having Allen and Moore which is apparently something that's never happened in terms of having receivers with 90+ receptions the previous season. I mean, how much do you think that plays into it?
I'll take it one step further. Another first, in addition to the one you just said, Adam, and I had not heard that, but Caleb Williams is also the first overall pick at quarterback to have a top 10 receiver pick, rookie in Rome Odunze the same year. So you put those three things together, there's not many first overall picks who have that kind of arsenal to throw to from day one, right? And not to mention that I read an article this morning from The Athletic, and they were just gushing about Caleb Williams and just his natural ability, his makeup. I mean, everybody thinks he's the real deal. This is really setting the stage for either an overhyped classic Bear, meltdown, or maybe he lives up to the hype. But it is interesting how they have lined up some things. You think about who did Troy Aikman have his first year, as the first overall pick, and you always bring up the same one, DMase, because it was right in the prime of the Titans. But when Derek Carr, those early years as the first overall pick for the Texans, he had an expansion team around him. He had nothing, right? So Caleb Williams, relatively speaking, has quite a bit to work with.
Yeah, he does. It helps if you are able to come into a situation where you have some guys that are proven guys. But because the hoopla wasn't even this great for Joe Burrow or for Trevor Lawrence. Now, people thought that these guys were going to eventually be, elite quarterbacks, but I don't think leading up to their first game that they were not talking about them in the same breath that they're talking about Caleb Williams. I think a lot of it is because he reminds them of Patrick Mahomes in a sense of the off-schedule throws, the off-platform throws, what he can do once he get outside the pocket. Some of the throws that he made in college, they were sort of Patrick Mahomes-esque. So I think that's why people look at him and they gush over him. The same thing happened, after a while with Kobe Bryant. Because why? Because he reminded so many people of Michael Jordan. So there was so many people gushing over him, how good he could potentially be. Now he was able to be that guy and more, winning championships, 5 of them, meaning Kobe. But allow this young man Caleb Williams to sort of grow into that role of grow into being that guy that you think he could potentially be. Allow him to grow into it, because again, just because he has 290+ catchers doesn't mean it doesn't mean automatic success, because what means automatic success is everybody's staying healthy, and that don't even mean that, but everybody staying healthy, that helps. Everybody knowing what to do during game time, that helps. I don't care how talented your quarterback is or how talented your receivers are. This is a new offense for 90% of that offense that's going to step on the field, or at least 70% of it, because those 2 receivers that they're counting on, they were not in this offense last year. So only person that was in it was DJ Moore. Swift, I think, wasn't even in his offense last year. So you got 3 guys that you're counting on heavy that was not in this offense last year. 4 if you're throwing a quarterback in there.
I would love to know what the level of excitement is in Chicago, because we know that the level of excitement around the country for Caleb Williams' official NFL debut is off the charts. I would love to know what it is like in Chicago. We know that Chicago is a passionate sports town. The Bears haven't had a lot of success. I'm sure there's going to be a buzz in that city on Sunday, and I'm curious to see how Caleb Williams handles that. He seems like a poised young man from afar, but I'm curious to see starting at home week 1 in a city like Chicago that's starving for success on the football field, how he's going to handle that.
Totally agree. And I would have to imagine that fan base has been burned so many times that there's probably some cautiousness to the optimism. The other thing, as you say that, Adam, that I think about is the Hard Knocks, right? They were on Hard Knocks, so that was kind of your football craziness. Everybody's soaking it up. When you're craving football, you just watch that show, and if you're bored, you watch that show. If you love football, like I'm not as into it as maybe I was when it was new. The newness is worn off, but there's a curiosity, right? And so a lot of casual fans are probably they know more about the Bears than they normally would because of that show.
Andrew from Dover on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, says, with all the hype around Williams and the Bears, I have this feeling the Titans will do just like they did in the opening game against the Browns a few years back. That was a 43-13 Titans win against the Browns in week 1 in 2019. Now, I'm not expecting a blowout like that. I actually did mention on the show when we had Jonathan Hutton earlier this week that I've had this Titans-Browns 2019 like feeling about this game. Not that the Titans are going to blow the doors off of the Chicago Bears, but that the Titans win somewhat decisively by taking advantage of a rookie quarterback with a battle-tested secondary and Jeffrey Simmons up front. So Andrew is not alone in thinking that. I've had that feeling myself, not to the extent that the Titans did against the Browns. I'm not expecting the Titans to score 43 points. We know that is a long shot. But if the Titans won by multiple possessions, if the Titans won, let's just throw a number out there. If the Titans won 24-10, would you be shocked?
I wouldn't be. And it wouldn't, make me believe, that they're going to have a great season or they're going to have a bad season. It's the first game of the season. Sometimes we can all be prisoners of the moment. However this first game sort of works itself out, there's still 16 or 17 more of those games during the regular season. The team that they are today will not be the team that they will be once the season, in week 8, 9, 10, and 11. They will be a much different team. I just look at, Chicago. Yes, they have firepower on offense, at the running back position, at the receiver position. He's walking into a situation, Caleb Williams, sort of like CJ Stroud walked into a situation, not saying that he has proven guys, but he had guys that were already there within, on that team. And then they add another piece of Tank Dell on offense. And then you add your new offensive coordinator and head coach. And then everything just seems, as the week goes on, everything just seems to come together for that team. So CJ Stroud was sort of put in a good position as well, and he flourished. It's not as good, I think, as this Chicago Bear personnel is. I'm talking about from the wide receiver stance. But if I'm going to face a young quarterback with these weapons, I'd rather face him the first game of the season or the first few games of the season than to have to face him in week 13 or 14. Because again, even the Bears, it doesn't matter if they win or lose this game Sunday. They will not be the same team that they are today in week 15 or 16. They won't.
There's so much newness on both from both of these teams. Exactly. I think that is the theme of the game. So many new players for both teams. Who can come together the quickest on Sunday?
615-737-1025. Our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Coming up next, we have 3 more of Willy's Titans questions to answer to get to 10. We'll answer those next. Adam Vingan, Willy Donick, Derek Mason, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Willy and DMase, 1025, 1063 The Game. Willy Donick, Derek Mason with Adam Vingan. Nick Frazier here as well. So as we prepare for week 1 against the Chicago Bears, noon on Sunday, we've been going through Willy's 10 Titans questions. We have 3 more to get to. So Willy, take it away.
All right, let's review so far what we've got on our 10 most important Titans questions from training camp in the offseason. Stuff that we have discussed backwards and forwards. It's time to put the final questions down on paper, and we can refer to these during the season. Let's run through quickly our previous questions. Number 1, Tony Pollard or Tajay Spears, who will be the more productive running back for the Titans? Adam says Pollard. DMase and I say Spears. The Titans, over or under in the new Denard Wilson defense, 20 and a half takeaways. Last year, the defense had only 14, 31st in the NFL. So 20 and a half would still be below league average. Can they do that, especially the type of defense they're playing, which is going to be more aggressive, more blitzing? Adam Biggins says over, as do DMase and I. We are in unison on this one. We think that they will get more than 20. Question 3, how many points will the Titans average per game? We know the Titans offense has been under 18. They can't even get in. They can't even vote because it's been so poor the last 2 years. So option A would be ineligible to vote, which would remain under 18. That would not be good. B would be 18 to 20.9. In other words, you're an adult, but you got to have a fake ID to get into the bar. And option C is you can go to bars without being nervous, without getting any armpit or eyebrow sweat. You're 21 and over in average points per game. DMase says C. They're going to be 21 and up. They can go to the bar. Adam says they're going to have a fake ID between 18 and 20.9. I say with Adam, I'm the same way with B, 18 to 20.9. Nick Frazier also created a new category, eligible to be run for the House of Representatives in the USA, 25 and over. So he's very optimistic. Is that right, Nick?
Spot on, Willy. You're spot on.
25 and up. Will Tavondre Sweat finish in the top 10 in NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year? Adam said yes, only because he cannot name 9 other defensive rookies in the NFL. I don't blame him for that. I say yes. DMase says yes. Now, we're going to have to find if there's an official vote. But we think Tavondre Sweat is getting absolutely zero hype. His odds are enormous. Nick, I think you looked them up. He is not in the top 10 in terms of odds.
Plus 7,500.
Plus 7,500
for Tavondre Sweat.
So there are many, many guys. And we all feel like he will make an impact this year. That's a big swing thing for the Titans starting on Sunday, where he gets the lineup against Jeffrey Simmons, against what is perceived to be the weakness of the Bears, and that is the interior of their offensive line. Question 5, will D-Hop and Calvin Ridley combine for over or under 2,200 receiving yards? So they both had over 1,000 last year, 17-game season. That's 1,100 each, but it's a sliding scale. One could have a big year, one could be more of the complement. Will they get to 2,200? Adam and I say no. They will be under. DMase is the optimist. He will say yes, over. Traylon Burks, over or under 12 and a half dynamic plays, defined as a touchdown or a 20-plus yard play, catching or running from scrimmage. Adam says under. DMase and I say over, that Burks will make an impact with some big plays. 12 and a half. That's less than 1 per game. Let's see what happens starting on Sunday. And yesterday we made this before any NFL games were played. The Titans record this season. Adam says 7-10. I say 8-9. DMase says 9-8. So that will catch you up to where we are today. So here's question 8, guys. Will Levis completed 58.4% of his passes last year. With the Callahan factor, what is that going to look like this year? We're going to set the over-under at 62%. Now, here are the theories. Last year, first of all, the league average was 64.5%. So that's a gauge. Now, just to give you a little reference, guys like Brock Purdy, way, way higher than that. And it does matter what type of throws you're making, right? DMase knows this. If it's a short, controlled passing game, you are going to complete a higher percentage of passes. If you do take more shots down the field, it's a little bit tougher. Brock Purdy and Kirk Cousins were at 69%, over 69% last year as starters. They were kind of the leaders in that category. So 62%, I set the over-under at that because I do think they're going to try to get the ball out quicker, throw some higher percentage passes, some more screens. But at the same time, we know Will Levis in his DNA does like to take shots down the field. So let's start with DMase. What do you think? Over or under 62% for Will Levis? We feel like if he's over 62%, that's going to lead to improved results for him.
Well, listen, if he's under 60%, then the only way this team has success is if they're running the football effectively and the defense is playing like a top 10, top 12 defense. That's the only way this team can, do anything record-wise if Will Levis is completing less than 60% of his passes. I think he will be right at, what did you say, 62%?
The over-under is 62%. Now, 58.4 last year was the lowest completion percentage of anyone who started as many games as Levis started. 9. The next closest was Bryce Young for Carolina, 59.8.
Well, I'm telling you this. If he's completing 62% of his passes, this team, for all those who said the Titans were going to win 4 or 5 games, that's not going to be the case. They're going to be winning more like 8, 9, 10 games if Will Levis is completing over 62% of his passes. And they're running the football the way we believe they can run the football, because he's getting time to throw the football and he's finding the open guys within the offense that they want to run, whether it's a quick passing game or trying to get things down the field. He would be doing exactly what Brian Callahan wants him to do. Be patient within the offense, run the offense, take what they give you. Every now and then we may have to force something, but that's depending on down and distance. But if you just play within the framework of the offense, then 62%, that will get us where we want to go if the other guys, the other facets of the game, the team is playing the way that we want them to play, which means the defense is a top 12 defense, and that running game is one of the top running games in the National Football League, which I believe they will be anyway. So I'm going, can I go with right at 62%?
No.
Damn it.
You cannot.
Gosh, Willie.
You can say 62.1 if you want.
Okay, I say over at 62.5%.
Okay, so barely over.
Yes.
So you like my over-under?
Yes, I like it because it's tough.
It's tough.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to turn into Joe Montana.
Exactly.
This year, but I think 62% would give you a marked improvement.
It gives you a chance to win ball games.
Yeah, I think it will help, and I think it would lead. Now, it's nothing to write home about, right? Because there's still a higher expectation. There was a day and time, in the last generation where, if 60% would have considered really good and Joe Montana was blowing everybody away with that. Now the league average is 64.5, right? So just to be league average, he would have to get up to that. And we're only asking for 62. So I would hope he would get in that area. And because of the offense they're running, they have made an emphasis on that. So I'm going to say if he doesn't get 62%, I think that doesn't bode well for how the season is going to go for him. So I'm going to say over as well. So Adam, what do you say?
I'm going to go over as well, and I'm going to throw some numbers at you. So Will Levis, nearly 20% of his passing attempts last season were deep passes, 20-plus air yards. That led the league by, I believe, like 3 or 4 percentage points.
Right. He chucked it. He went down the field.
His completion percentage on those deep passes was 36%, 18 of 50, 36%. So if the Titans' game plan for Will Levis to cut down on the deep passes, now it's going to happen because it's in his nature, but if they're looking more for the short and intermediate, easier passes, quote unquote, that should boost that completion percentage. So I am going to say over, as long as the Titans can cut down on the deep passes that Will Levis may want to make. So I will say over as well.
I do think, okay, so we all agree 62% is a very reasonable goal, and he should hit that, especially if the offense is doing what they are signing up to do, and that is get him to get the ball out of his hands quicker, higher percentage passes, and not take as many risky shots down the field. All right, question number 9. Will Levis, we know, again, in his DNA, he has an injury history. Got injured last year. Got injured in college. He's also unproven. So, there is a scenario where he just struggles so badly, and they have Mason Rudolph, that he could lose his job for performance. That would be the nightmare. So we've set the over-under, and we did this exact number last year for Ryan Tannehill. Over or under 14.5 games started this season for Will Levis. All right, Adam, we'll start with you.
Say the number again.
14.5. So, basically, will Mason Rudolph have to start 3 or more games is what it comes down to, for whatever reason.
If recent history is any indication, I think that answer would be yes, but I'm going to believe enough in the offensive line and Bill Callahan that it will hold up enough that Will Levis will not be injured behind a porous offensive line. So I will say over. I will say Will Levis will make more than 14.5 starts.
Okay. You will have an opportunity to further give your projection on the offensive line in our next question, our final question. So, DMase, what do you say? 14.5 games started, over or under for Levis?
I think the only way he doesn't, if he's under that, is if he's playing hero ball. If he do the bonehead stuff he did in the preseason, at trying to dive into the end zone or trying to, make that extra yard when it's like, dude, just get down. We need you for the game, not for this extra 1 yard. Again, if it's, 4th and 1 and you need it in the last 2 minutes of the game, then okay, we know you have to do that. But it's in the first quarter and it's 3rd and, 5 and you can get 4. And you can't get that last yard, just get down. We need to save you for the whole game. So if he's able to protect himself and get out of his way from playing hero ball, then he plays over 14 games. So that's what I'm going for.
Okay, DMase is the most optimistic guy in these 10 questions of any of the 3 of us for sure. And it's really not even close. I am going to say under. I just think, number one, there's some dumb luck that can come in at any point, right? Last year or 2 years ago, I think is the great example where Ryan Tannehill, who had been very durable, and remember the Titans, nobody has forgotten this. They were 7-3 at one point, but what turned the season was a couple weeks before that. They beat the Colts in the dying days of the Matt Ryan regime at the Coliseum. But in that game, Jeffrey Simmons rolled his ankle on just a routine pass rush, and then on just a handoff, a strange handoff, Nicholas Petit-Frere, I believe it was, got pushed back into Ryan Tannehill. He got the high ankle sprain, and he was not the same the rest of the year. So some of it's just bad luck that injuries happen. But I also still am not sure that Will Levis can get out of his DNA of, he can't resist. He's going to want to put his body on the line to make a play sometimes. And so that could contribute to things. So I'm going to say under. I do think Mason Rudolph is going to be part of the script this year, and he will start at least 3. So I'm going under 14.5 for Levis. All right, question number 10. Again, related to the offensive line. How we have talked about this offensive line for 3 years now. But here comes the guru, Bill Callahan. Here comes Cushenberry, high-price free agent center. Here comes J.C. Latham, an impressive-looking and impressive-sounding, everything you like you're seeing from the training camp. J.C. Latham at left tackle. Now you have a healthy Peter Skoronski, whose season got derailed, I believe, last year when he got the emergency appendectomy. I think he was playing catch-up the rest of the year, and he was playing around just horrendous players on both sides of him. Okay, so here's what it is. Last year, because of all that, they allowed 64 sacks, tied for fourth most in the NFL. The Giants had 85. The Giants gave up 5 sacks per game last year. And I'm saying this, having picked them to make the playoffs. I'm very much regretting that decision. Can we do those picks again, by the way, Adam?
Nope.
I'm afraid I can't allow
Can
that,
I
Willie.
change that one? I would like to go back and
a
maybe
card laid is a card played, Willie.
It's played. It's played.
Yes.
I'm behind the G-men 100%, win or tie. So the Callahan factor when it comes to pass protection. Bill Callahan and Brian Callahan. Different offense, designed not to hold the ball as much. I'm putting the over-under at 49.5. Now, for a reference point, sacks allowed last year. The Giants, of course, an extreme. But, most of the teams in the rankings between 11 12 and 20 and 21. So that's the middle 10. Allowed between 40 and 45 sacks. So 40 to 45 is around the average or the mean, basically. So we're not asking for unbelievable protection here. We're asking for a significant improvement from last year to this year. So over or under 49.5 sacks this season for the Titans offensive line. Sacks allowed. DMase, you started.
Oh, man. 40. Gosh, that is. How many did they have last year? 62?
64.
64.
64.
49.
Over 3.5 per game.
Gosh, man, Willie.
Andre Dillard is gone.
Yes, I know, but still, this is
Aaron
a new
Brewer
offense. It's a new offensive line.
Right.
They still got to get used to one
is
another.
Still crazy.
The depth is crazy.
Still shaky.
Yes. Damn. I'm gonna go over. But I don't think they're going to. Yeah, I don't think they're going to be to the 60 like they were last year. Even the Cincinnati Bengals, who changed up their offensive line after Joe Burrow got sacked a million times, they upgraded their offensive line, and he still got sacked a lot. It wasn't as much as the previous year, but he still ended up on his backside a lot. I think because of the way Will Levis plays, I think it's going to be over the 49 that you said, but I don't think it's going to be the 60 plus that they had last year.
I think
says over.
I think asking the Titans to cut. So you said 49.5, Willie?
49.5. So if they can get under 50.
So you're asking
that would cut down by about 15.
So you would be asking them to basically cut down by 1 sack allowed per game almost.
More or less. Yeah, more or less about a sack per game. They can cut that down. Can they do that?
I am confident that it won't be 64, but I think asking them to go from 64 to 49.5 is too big of a jump in one season. So I will say over 49.5, but it will not be in the 60s. It'll be in the 50s.
If it's in the 60s again, it's going to be a long year. And I think that there will be the optimism level that we talked about that is fairly high right now before they play a first game, because I think people are buying in to the Callahan factor for sure, and they believe that they will see some marked improvement, but they haven't played any games yet, and injuries can certainly mess with this. That being said, I think the key to it is if they can stick to their guns and have an offense that does get the ball out quicker. Part of the reason they gave up so many sacks was the offensive line, but there was also a part of it where Ryan Tannehill and Will Levis, they were quarterbacks that were apt to hold the ball the extra half a second and risk the sack to try to make the play down the field. I think there will be less dropbacks designed like that. There'll be plays designed to get the ball out. And I think that's the reason they're going to go under this year. I don't think the protection has to be much better, although, look, I like what I'm seeing from Latham. And I think Cushenberry being named a captain says something. I think Skoronski is going to be way better than he was last year. I'm still very worried about the right side, but I think it's a little easier to protect half of a bad offensive line than just going into each Sunday going, do we have anybody who can block among the 5 guys up front? So I'm going under.
Wow, Willie.
615-737-1025. What are your answers to Willie's Titans questions? Before we head to break, one piece of news. Chidobe Awuzie has been added to the Titans injury report with the calf injury he has been dealing with. Chidobe Awuzie is questionable for Sunday against the Bears, along with DeAndre Hopkins, who is also questionable. Otis Reese and Jamal Adams out for the Titans against the Bears. We'll take it to the bank. Coming up next, Adam Bingen, Willie Donick, Derek Mason, 1025, 1063, the game.
Football is back, people. Happy Friday. We had a game yesterday where the Kansas City Chiefs defeated the Baltimore Ravens. So I'm sure if you were betting with Zen Sports. And what better way to do it? Because you got big games tonight. One big game with the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Green Bay Packers. You're going to see two really good young quarterbacks on display in Brazil. So if you're going to get your bets done, you need to do it with Zen Sports, the new sports book in Tennessee that's bringing sports betting to a whole new level, people. And I mean that literally. When you sign up for a Zen Sports account, you'll automatically earn up to $100 no danger first wager. If your first bet loses, you'll be reimbursed for the amount of your bet up to $100. And for football season, Zen Sports is launching a revamped betting platform for both college football and the NFL. And what's better? With our new look, Zen Sports will offer daily promotions, including odd boosts, same game parlays, no danger wagers, and much more. Zen Sports also offers a one-of-a-kind VIP reward program. If you qualify, that's if you qualify, people, you'll earn monthly comps at sporting events, concerts, and even sport book bonuses. And you know we have a concert every damn weekend here in Nashville. So you will be, so you can actually qualify for that as well. So the VIP program is by invite only. So if you feel that your Zen Sports play qualifies for the VIP consideration, check out the program details and apply at zensports.com/VIP. So what are you waiting for, football fans? Start betting with Zen Sports, where you will receive true odds on all parlays and enhanced user experience for all. Get going and download their app at zensports.com today. That's Zen Sports, where betting just got better. And remember, gambling problems, call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 years or older to bet here in Tennessee.
Here comes the money.
And you can take that to the bank.
Here comes the money. Money, 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 money.
Willie and DMase, 1025, 1063 the game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason with Adam Vingan here. It's time for Take It to the Bank. Willie, do you want to do the honors for Take It to the Bank?
Well, I really don't, because I got a big fat 0 last week in our opening week. Nick, do you want to do a quick review?
Let's
By
do
the
a
way,
quick review, please.
Take It to the Bank is brought to us by our friends at F&M Bank. That's the reason we put this contest together, to hype up the fact that F&M Bank does great work in our community. 20 locations in our listing area, on up into Hopkinsville, Kentucky. Shout out up there. A bunch in Clarksville as well, but right in Nashville. You name the town, it's usually right in the middle of your community. Just go to myfmbank.com to find the nearest one.
Well, with that being said, Willie, I will do the recap here. Adam, not too shabby for week 1 for you. He had the Chiefs to lose. Obviously, that did not happen, so he didn't get the points for that. But he did have Michigan State to win and not cover. They did win, and they did not cover. So how about that, Adam?
Mm-hmm.
So I gave you a 5 for that. That's, if you get a maximum of 10, half and half, that's 5. Split it down the middle.
Hot diggity.
As for DMase,
Mm-hmm.
this is a laundry list worth of picks. Let me just go through it real quick. DMase went to
we might need to make a DMase rule that you can only have so many irons in the fire.
Hey, y'all didn't make a rule, so hey, that's what it is.
4 is the maximum. 4
Okay.
is the maximum.
4 is the maximum.
Yeah.
Okay.
So DMase went to the WNBA with the Indiana Fever and Chicago Sky. He had Angel Reese to get a double-double. That did happen. She had 10 points and 11 rebounds. Also had Caitlin Clark to get 20 points and 8 assists. That also did happen.
Bam.
She had 31 points and 12 assists. And he had Michigan State to win and cover. That half.
Wrong.
They won and did not cover.
Yes.
And last he had MTSU to win and not cover. And that did happen. So DMase.
Bam.
Starting off hot with an 8. So there you go. There's that.
Did I get any points for the Michigan State winning but not covering?
Yeah, it factored in.
Okay.
You don't deserve it, but yeah.
As for Willie, he already mentioned Florida to win. He put all of his eggs in one basket. Did not happen. Willie, this is your year. I feel
It wasn't even close. They got smoked. It was, like, come on. All my buddies that went to Florida from my high school, where were you at, man? The Gator Chomp never even happened.
Willie, I'll just say this as the commissioner of Take It to the Bank. You're lucky we don't do negative numbers in this competition.
Yes, it could have been a negative.
As for myself, I picked the Vols, and I went all Vols for the most part. Nico to have 4 total touchdowns. He had 3, so didn't really fully get all that. Took him to get 370 yards, had 314. Over the 300 bill, just didn't get it all. And Squirrel White to score a touchdown. Didn't record that many stats in that game. So I gave myself a 4, maybe a 3. I went 4. 3 could be more on the even side.
Tough to grade yourself.
It is very tough to grade yourself. So I'm going to go with 4 there. But as for that, since Willie did come in last, I'm going to let the person that won last week go. Willie, you go ahead.
All right. So the score, what do we got? DMase had 8. How many did Adam have?
5, and myself at 4.
Okay. I'm going to start off with this. Sam Darnold will see ghosts in the Meadowlands at MetLife Stadium on Sunday. You might recall a couple years ago when he was playing in the same stadium for the Jets against Bill Belichick's Patriots. They got down 24-0, a hapless Jets team. Got down 24-0, and he was caught on tape basically saying, "I'm seeing ghosts." In other words, he couldn't read Bill Belichick's coverages. I think it was a Monday night game. You guys might remember this. It was just excruciating to watch. If from an entertainment standpoint, even if you were not a Jets fan, you're like, this is the boringest game. The Jets can't do anything. So now Sam Darnold is quarterbacking the Vikings, and he takes the Vikings into the Meadowlands to take on the G-Men, the team that I picked to get to the wild card. So if the Giants are going to do the dream march to the playoffs, they've got to beat the Vikings. They're a 1.5-point dog at home. I'm taking the Giants to win outright. And my second one will be this. In the Titans game, I'm going to say that the duo of Pollard and Spears will get over 150 yards combined from scrimmage. In other words, rushing and receiving combined.
Oh, okay.
I like
Two
that.
of them. So rushing and receiving combined. So, we're going to have to do some addition here. But I think that's a I want to see how it's divvied up, but I think that's a pretty good goal to try to hit. If they can get 150 yards from those two guys rushing and receiving combined, I think that would help a lot. So those are my two.
I like that, Willie. That's good. And as for the next one, Adam, would you like to carry on?
Sure. I will keep them all Titans Bears specific. I believe the over-under for Will Levis passing yards on ESPN Bet is 224.5. I will take the under. Will Levis under 224.5 passing yards. I also had a running back related one. Tony Pollard will have at least 50 yards rushing and at least 25 yards receiving. I will have the Titans' first receiving touchdown of the season caught by Nick Westbrook-Akine.
Oh.
And I will have L'Jarius Sneed intercepting Caleb Williams. Those are my 4.
Wow. Okay. DMase.
I like that. Okay. You know where I'm going? I'm going to WNBA first. Indiana Fever played the Minnesota Lynx, which is they're one of the better teams in the WNBA. But I got Kelsey Mitchell leading the team in scoring. I have Caitlin Clark getting at least 12 points and 10 assists. So I'm done with that. I'm not going to even predict the winner. All right, I'm going to move over to the college ranks. That's 2, 3. MTSU will score at least 10 points versus Ole Miss. At least 10 points versus Ole Miss.
10?
Yeah, man, it's like a 40-something point spread?
42.5.
It's 42.5 point spread, man. Listen.
I hope they get more than 10. Come on.
I hope they do too.
Defense. Lane Kiffin doesn't care about defense.
I hope they do too, but man, you're a 42 point dog, okay? And then to the Titans. I predict that T'Vondre Sweat will have a sack and Spears will have a touchdown rushing.
Is that 5?
That might have been 5.
Oh, well,
you know what?
Well, T'Vondre Sweat has a sack.
Violation.
Has a sack.
I'm taking Jeffrey Simmons to have 2 sacks Sunday. Tajay Spears to score the first touchdown of the Titans season, and Will Levis to throw over 275 yards.
We will see how that all plays out.
Okay.
Feeling
that's
it.
a lot.
Full reaction to the Titans Week 1 game against the Chicago Bears Monday at 11. Talk to you then.
Be love on your people. Have a wonderful and blessed Friday. Peace.